And we're live. Hello and welcome to the 13th episode of Game Theory Gang with myself, Matty Allen, the validator himself, David Feeder, and Gunther, the accountant. Welcome, everyone.
Good evening.
We are coming off of a hugely successful show last week. The statistics on the episode are off the charts. Most watched episode that we've done. And so shout out to 4 attendees and everybody who liked and subscribed and shared out that content. That was really awesome.
Yeah, that was a great episode last week.
So let's get right into it, because I know people are here for that awesome level of discussion. So there's been a lot going on here. We have with us somebody who is maybe controversial in some ways, but is, in my opinion, highly regarded in the community. Somebody who put in countless hours of work to do an OA audit. And so maybe we can get some people up to speed here and talk about what our definitions are of the origin address and kind of what that has evolved into. And then for me, I'm like blown away that not everybody knows the statistics on how much user HEX is staked and how much is liquid. And that's something I saw. Crypto Coffee did an interview earlier today with like a Bitcoin OG, the number 21 employee at Google, who since left Google and everything. But this guy did an hour-long interview with Coffee today, and he knew a lot of stuff about HEX. Like, he was very familiar with it. He explained it in ways that were super on point, but he also thought that only 10% of HEX is staked.
How could you even think that? Like, I mean, my work's been around since like the early days. Like, what? What?
True. Well, he's new, I guess. So.
Okay. Oh, you're talking about the guy that he interviewed.
Yeah. But I would venture to say, like, most people, the majority of people probably have that misunderstood, and that's one of the things on this show that we can clear up, I think.
Yeah. I mean, even if they believe that, I mean, at this point, does it matter?
And is it not untrue? I mean, technically,
it's still a true statement.
9% to 10% of all the HEX is staked, roughly. I mean, that is true.
It's just a different way of looking at it, actually. Yeah.
Because that's what sets the it's not interest, but the yield, right? The inflation rate paid to stakers is based on how much is staked. So because of roughly 10% is staked, that's where you get the roughly 36.9%.
And part of what's relevant, like, if we get down into the basics of what is a crypto, it's what creates value is people buying and not selling. And so if 97% of the coins are held by an address that is never sold, and that's something that Gunther has helped us to verify, that's a pretty incredible thing. And that means that a lot of the coins may never be sold, or at least, they have a pretty good track record so far.
Let me just clarify, just for the audience, not one address, but it's spread across like over 3,000 addresses. And you might be like, well, how do you keep track of that? Well, I have my ways in Excel. I really should use a database.
I was gonna say, you're not using a service like Dune Analytic or Masari or something like that. You're using Excel, bro.
So, like, I'm not a dev. I only took like one C++ course at the Ohio State University, but I am friends with some smart guys, so maybe we make it more efficient. But it's really not that bad. I usually just run like this basic like script in it. It updates the balances, and then I sort of have like an inequality that basically is like, is the present balance greater than, equal to, or less than the previous balance? And then I can determine, it'll just basically yield a Boolean type of statement, whether true or false.
Yep.
And then I can tell right away, like, if any money is like moved.
That's cool. Very cool. So it's nice. You're just running a script, basically. That's cool.
Yeah. Very basic. And you just click a button, walk away, come back. Not too bad. My latest spreadsheet has information that public ones don't, and I don't share it with the public anymore, because I want whoever controls those addresses whichever person, entity, or entities, I want them to have privacy for those addresses. I feel like that's their right, and they've earned and deserve that right. So it's really important to me.
I think that's super respectable. Absolutely. I think that it helps, you know, because even to use the analogy that Richard's always used is like the De Beers diamond vault, right? It's like that's why diamonds were so expensive all those years, is because most of them were in the vault. So
Yeah.
you're just keeping track to make sure that, you know, the vault is what's in the vault is in the vault, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's all. And the newest spreadsheet includes like SAC addresses and then money that moved from SAC addresses, and some other private things that I won't disclose. But let's just put it this way. I guess you could probably look at these addresses, whichever entity or entity owns the entity or entities owns them. They're essentially acting as monetary policy for the asset and just protecting the asset. And I can assure you that when you see Richard's flamboyant outrage marketing, it's not from selling HEX. I can assure you.
Right.
That's all I can say about that. Yeah.
I mean, even at this point, yeah. Go ahead, Maddie.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to agree with you completely. Like at this point in the game, after all these years, like you really think Richard's selling HEX for Louis and Prada and Gucci? Like that, he doesn't have to touch the HEX.
It was ironic on Twitter that everyone was blaming Richard for selling HEX. And then meanwhile, they're defending other people that are like mega dumping on their heads and using them as exit liquidity. I found that super funny and ironic. Not really funny, but like, I mean, come on, guys.
That's it's twisted.
I would like to understand more about like your guys' psychology, like position on the fact that we shouldn't talk about the OA wallets as much, because I've heard a lot of people in the community say that, and I think that it's actually like one of the biggest marketing points that hasn't been made yet. And but I hear a lot that people are saying like, well, if normal people or people who if the uninitiated knew about the OA wallet, they would misinterpret it. They would use it against us. Can you tell me more about why you don't think it's a amazing, you know, like blockchains, they're supposed to be transparent. HEX is one of the few assets that has, you know, more transparency than most. It ranks in the top 10 in transparency on Nomics, and you know, that's something to brag about in my opinion. But I think that there may be another side to the debate on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a strong value proposition, because I mean, you need centralized ownership, like you mentioned, for assets to perform well. You need the majority of the supply to be hoarded by like very good and benevolent whales, whether it's one whale or multiple whales, whoever is doing it. They just need to be responsible people. That's what it comes down to. And this is true in every single market, whether crypto or whether legacy markets, like basically any financial asset. So I think it's fantastic. And also people, they don't like the 97% or whatever. But the fact of the matter is percentages are relative, right? So like if you had like 100 tokens and they own 97 tokens and there's only 3 tokens in circulation, well, that's not very good. Like that's not useful at all. But when you have billions and billions of tokens, it's a whole different matter. You know, like 3% is a lot. 3% is like 17.7 billion tokens floating around in circulation that could be sold by anyone. That's a lot. So
yeah, that's still a lot. Yeah,
I mean, look,
there's people out there with multiple billions, you know, like and many multi-millions, and there's a lot of coins.
And we see what happened to the price chart when that whoever the LP rug pull dude was that pulled 140 million HEX and mega dumped and ate fat slippage and drove the price down on themselves like a Neanderthal. We see like that had a significant impact on the price, but even still, the price recovered like pretty good so far.
So yeah, I think that could be like, you know, a major marketing point that has been kind of untapped, but there must be some other side to the story, because Gunther, I've listened to a lot of your interviews, and I love them. You've been pumping out hours and hours and hours of content that's been really great. So we're lucky to have you here. I'm just curious, like, how you think people knowing about the OA could hurt their position, could hurt like their ability to get into HEX.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, generally speaking, like plebs don't do very well with information and data. They'll manipulate it and twist it and distort it and then form their own narrative. So I don't want enemies of HEX to actually use data like against HEX and form that kind of narrative. But I guess you could also argue a lot of that data is already like out in the wild, out in the public, right? I can't get that back. I made the decision to release it in the early days because I wanted there to be like faith and trust in HEX, and I wanted it to succeed. And I think that was a critical part of it, at least one aspect that helped give it value, because it helped people to trust like, hey, this entity or entities, like they're not just going to like blitz dump on you and mega dump on you. They actually care about HEX. So that is a very strong proposition for like new investors or current investors. I guess, there are some people that have the argument. Well, yeah. So I guess the only con is that people just think, well, this person is just going to mega dump, and they're currently mega dumping on us when they see Richard rolling around and he's like, you know, $1 million Ferrari, you know, the supercars, and like, you know, twerking like at Peacocks or whatever.
Which is why I would always include the fact that that your audit shows that the OA and daughter addresses have never sold a single HEX.
Haven't sold. And it's, in fact, it's possible, nobody knows this, but it's possible that that type of fact could possibly be presented in the Highest of Stakes documentary. I don't know if they'll include it, but they might, without like really getting into like details.
Well, I'm definitely going to be in their DMs, like encouraging them to.
Yeah. Notice I said might. I don't know what they'll do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I feel like most HEX users know that, and really only the new people don't. You know, if somebody was unaware of that, then it kind of shows that they're new or haven't done a whole lot of research, because you know, it's kind of common knowledge at this point for.
And it's great too. It's great to have the numbers to be able to like instantly like refute someone, like, because it happens on Twitter. I was like, let me pull up that spreadsheet. Like I could tell you right now, just like right off the bat, the users, like regular users, have staked almost 75% of their HEX. So that's good to know, because when you say 10% of HEX is staked, like that's like almost like meaningless. Like that doesn't really mean much, right? Because it's including like centralized ownership, which is most of it. It's held liquid so that we could get that 38% APY or 39 or 40% for like long-term stakes. But the fact that users have staked 75% of their tokens, that indicates to me that they're using HEX as it was designed, as it was intended. So I think that's a strong value proposition for new users.
That's a huge difference, and it speaks more to like the product market fit that's actually occurred. When people propagate the 10% number, I think that's just wrong. It's not accurate, because it's not showing why, you know, HEX is 7 times more effective than it appears, and it's, you know, 30 times more rare than it appears.
Yeah,
you know? Those are big numbers.
No, it's actually really important. And even the 25% that's remaining, that's liquid, that's a large percentage of that is spread across like really large wallets that are not necessarily like selling, right? Oh, that's an old spreadsheet.
Everybody take a screenshot of this old spreadsheet. It's not up to date, but it's the best we have publicly.
You could, I mean, I might be okay with sharing like the most up-to-date spreadsheet, I guess, if you want.
Of course. Yeah. I mean,
because then I'm not actually showing like any addresses or anything. I'm just showing like numbers and percentages.
Yeah. Like this screenshot right here. Sort of just high level stats. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let me share my screen.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Entire screen. Is that what I want to choose, or just window? Maybe just a window. Okay.
Oh yeah, totally, just window.
Yeah. Can you guys?
Do you want me to pull it up?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay. Yeah. There you go.
Can you zoom in a little bit?
Sure. Hold on. Let me. There you go. Is that better?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay. Yeah. So just keep in mind, I manually update total TShares and HEX per TShare, so it's not exactly accurate. And then I sort of just hit Control Alt F9 to change the price for HEX, and so that affects the numbers, right? So it's not perfectly accurate. But if you look at, so I guess key takeaways here is if you look at the OA liquid HEX, 96.95%, so just slightly under 97%. User circulating HEX is like basically 3%. The centralized ownership does have, or I should say OA daughter addresses have 11 different staking addresses that a lot of people may not realize. And the sum of all the T-shares of those staking addresses is actually a positon, not just a
Oh wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So there is actually a positon. So when you go on like Staker app, and you see like different whales and sharks, if you put in the individual addresses, you'll see that most of the positions are whales, and then maybe like a couple of top shark positions. But the sum of majority of the whales and the sharks is actually like belonging to like centralized ownership.
That's wild to me. I was thinking about that the other day when I was listening to one of your streams, because in HEX, there are a lot of people who are like known. Like the community knows a number of the whales and sharks and dolphins in the community. People have like volunteered to be public about that, and maybe they haven't been verified fully, but it's there's still a chance that we saw HEX 19, we saw the wallet, we saw the guy get hacked, and speak wisely about it afterwards and everything. So that's really curious to me. Yeah,
most of them are actually shark positions, because the majority of the whale positions is related to OA. Only a very small number are actually whales.
So my point, I guess, is that if you took away the OA addresses, the like percentage of people in the top like 100 or top 10 spots, like we know a huge percentage of who those people are, which is also fascinating to me.
Yeah,
that the people would be volunteering to be public like that.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
There's pros and cons to doxing your league like that. Like the pro is that I think it builds trust in people, and that people like your story too. Like for me, I came from nothing. I'm one of 15 kids. I came from a poor background. So for me, I'm also a Leo, right? So I kind of like to, I kind of like to use it as just to show, I guess I'm proud of the accomplishment, right? But there's also like the downside where you get like people like threatening you or blackmailing you, or there's like jealousy, or like there could be like a security risk. So there's definitely pros and cons, I'd say.
And so, you've been sharing your story, and that's been super interesting as well. I hope we have time to go into it and also unpack this OA stuff a little bit more. So I think that, again, these numbers are showing us that HEX is more rare than it seems. And it's also that, people out there, I did a series of tweets. Okay. I did a series of tweets and I said, hey, by the way, all of you crabs out there are actually dolphins. And everybody was like, they thought I was joking. They thought I was being cheeky on Twitter and stuff. It's like, no, really, you are.
Like, what's the league right below dolphins? Isn't it squids?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like,
you're saying the squid, like some squids are actually dolphins, not crabs?
No,
right?
I'm saying like the league system is based on, the league system includes OA shares.
Oh yeah.
And is like kind of forward projected too. And so if you're the type of crab that has 15-year stakes versus a crab that has 2-year stakes as their average, then like you're already kind of locked in to be a dolphin in terms of how much of the supply you control and everything. Like,
yeah, it's kind of
all the
misleading.
math.
It's kind of misleading. Like there's some, like when you go on Staker app, there's a few things that are misleading. Like the price chart is misleading with all the wicks. Like it's not reliable data, right? Like it's better to just go straight to like Uniswap, like V2 chart or V3 chart or whatever. Or I guess there isn't a V3 chart, just V2, right?
Well, I think that is the V2 chart, and I don't know why it gets those weird candles. Like,
yeah,
it's like
that's a known thing that Steph had talked about, was that it's because they're pulling from like the V2 liquidity, and they haven't switched over because they're, I guess, developing a better system for when they actually have trades going through them or something. So
yeah, it just sucks. Like the wicks are like annoying because it's like not usable. But then also the leagues are not accurate because it's accounting for OA stuff. It'd be better for it to just like focus on user addresses, right? Actually,
that'd be cool.
There's actually a guy in the Pulse Doge chat that I was talking to him privately about like OA stuff. And I think I'm focused on OA stuff, but he wants to focus on user owned stuff. So we might be able to work together to there's no expectations of anything, right? There may be nothing that's produced, but maybe that guy produces stuff that's more like user related and then could release that data. And that would be like more useful, I think.
That would be so cool. Cause people then, I think, they would appreciate their position more. One of the things that I think is critical to include in a tool like that, if people out there are building this sort of thing, is, the Tshare years, not just the Tshare count, but the Tshare years. And I've presented some data before on this to where really, if you're not realizing that your Tshare year count is going down every day, your Tshares age, then you're going to miss out on the bigger understanding that your Tshares, like, they'll suddenly vanish and rebuying them is going to be way expensive. And so I've got some resources I can share regarding that.
Excellent. Yep. I like it. Yep. So anyway, I think those were pretty much the key things. So you could see OA Tshares are like basically 19%. User Tshares, it's like 81%. I like that the OA has a lot of Tshares. I like that it's getting a lot of inflation. I like that. I'd rather the OA get more inflation and users get less sell pressure, right? And it'd be interesting too if the OA entity ever wanted to reduce the inflation so that there's not so much sell pressure, it could just stake more. Like it doesn't have to hold 97% liquid. Like it could just, like, remember right before big payday, it like staked everything. Actually, that's how I was able to identify that these addresses probably were controlled by the same entity, because I looked at the behavior across thousands of addresses and I found the addresses in the adoption amplifier, and I saw it was the exact same activity. They like staked right before big payday. They were like large wallets, staked for like 2 or 3 days, and then they all ended the stakes like right after big payday, and then the money just sat dormant and never fucking moved. And so I was like, well, that's the same psychology, that's the same behavior, same psychology, so probably controlled by the same entity. So I basically used some type, like I would say psychology in terms of like forensic analysis to assign that to like one like entity.
I was going to ask about your methodology, and one point that I would add, that's something that I've learned from people way smarter than me, like Future Us, is that 20% is actually about the perfect percentage for the OA to be staking if it wanted to maximize its interest, because unintuitively to me, the way that the math turns out is that if the OA were to stake more, it would actually be getting less inflation because it would push the inflation against itself, basically. And so it's kind of a super nuanced point that not everybody like maybe I'm not able to explain like the best, but
because when you stake more, it lowers the total inflation rate. So therefore,
okay.
it's getting it would get more of the pie, but it's making the pie smaller in general.
So it's decreasing the HEX payout per Tshare because more HEX is staked, is what you're saying. There's
and it would hurt kind of be hurting
I've
it.
never thought about that.
Yeah.
It's never even crossed my mind until now, which is kind of funny.
And so I used to promote like the OA is doing this benevolently, and I think like the OA is still acts in very benevolent ways, like in the terms of like never selling a HEX and that sort of thing. But when we look at like that, it's just a fun thing that like, I never thought about either until Future Us pointed it out to me.
It's funny how so many people accuse like OA entities of like dumping, but let's see. You have SAC addresses that all that they did was take HEX off the market and then move them into other addresses. So like money's just moving, but it's not like actually being sold. Then you have, damn, I got to plug in my battery. Hang on. Using the computer tonight. There we go. But then you have, and I won't go into any details on this, but I'll just state generally, you have sellers selling directly into buy walls. I'll just leave it at that. So, so people have it way backwards. It's kind of like you don't see Elon Musk like dumping Tesla. If anything, Elon Musk is just like a buyer, right? So yeah, like that should give faith to people and trust in them. Like if you have like a founder that's gaining like I guess increasing their position, that should give you faith and trust in that asset. You have other founders that are rug pulling on your ass, right? And like flooding their own bags and then dumping on you. So I mean,
selling like Vitalik sells ETH. Almost all founders sell except for Richard Hart. Period.
Yes.
There's something to be said for that. And even I could say this, even in like Pulse Doge, like some of the larger bags, they it's most likely we're trying to like educate everyone in the Pulse Doge chat about like extracting value in the most responsible way. Because I learned from experience in real time. Everyone knows that I mega dumped Hedron, and I learned from that experience. I learned like, hey, that is not smart. That doesn't look good in terms of optics. That is not the smartest. That's not a smart way to extract value at all. And you see people mega dumping in HEX and all that. The smart way is to extract value, a small percentage via like one-sided like LP positions on Uniswap V3. So that let's say the price of Pulse Doge is at like I don't know, let's say like $400, right? Well, if you wanted to extract, if you had like a larger wallet that wanted to extract maybe like 1% of their position, then they could create an LP position from let's say like $380 to like $400, and they just do one-sided liquidity. They put in 1% of their Pulse Doge stack. And then what happens is buyers, it's essentially a sell wall, right? It's resistance for the price. But buyers come in to that when the price is trading in that range of 380 to 400, buyers come in, they take the Pulse Doge, which means because they're buying it up, and they leave behind either USDC or HEX, depending on the pair. Well, eventually what happens is that sell wall is eaten through. And so buyers actually push the price up, and you extracted value. You only had to pay gas fees for adding liquidity and removing it. You earned fees. You didn't have to keep clicking some treasurer or ledger to like sign statements and all that. Like, I mean, this is really the most intelligent way. So, and you can also do limit orders, of course, and all that for buying and selling. So we're actually educating people in the chat about this because we saw this problem with HEX. And I've learned from my mistakes, right? Like that's just stupid. It's just a stupid way to extract value. The methodology that I use for Hedron.
You don't like people getting cheap coins or what?
The thing is that people. So when you crash a market like that, or crash the price, let's say Hex or Hedron or any of these things, the problem is that sure, people get cheap tokens, and that's good for buyers, especially buyers that want to build like a strong position. However, it murders the price chart and it really hurts people's wallets. People suffer greatly. I would argue that the downside is that like the cons are actually far outweigh the pros of doing that. Obviously dips are in the game and that's true, but like I think it's just smarter to just extract value in just a more intelligent way that doesn't really hurt the price chart as much. We know people are, there's still going to be people that just mega dump, right? They're still going to sell. It's still going to happen, right? You can't control it, but you can at least educate people in the proper way.
Here's a hypothetical like game theory question.
Yeah.
If everybody used, let's say, Uniswap v3 and we did these LP positions, or we just did matcha limit orders, and like let's say everybody was kind of a better player, right? And set all that stuff. Do you think it would smooth out the chart, or it would remove like dips from the chart? Do you think there would be overall positivity if people played better like that?
Well, I think it would be better for the price chart, but I could also see people like me will do research and they'll be like, this guy just set a sell wall. I saw this in Pulse Doge tonight. Some guy set a sell wall. He took 50,000 Pulse Doge, which is a huge position. It's like basically like $150,000, maybe a little less now.
Yeah, that's a big wall. That's at the top 20, right?
That's like the top 10 probably. So I have no idea who owns this address, but they set the sell wall between $10.11 and just slightly under $12, basically between $10 and $12. So that tells me this person is trying to extract $500,000 to $600,000 from the price range of 10 to 12. Well, sellers might see that and be like, I'm going to front run this guy because there's a huge sell wall at $10. And so maybe they just start selling at like $10. So I think dips would still occur and still happen because people will always like front run and like game it. But that would be more for more experienced players to even look for that. By the way, I found this out because somebody had posted like a transaction of how this guy added 50,000 Pulse Doge as liquidity. And then if you look in Etherscan, you could see if you go under NFT positions, because there's an NFT created with the Uniswap v3, you can actually follow that and open it up on OpenSea, and then you could take a screenshot of that position, and you know exactly where their buy or sell wall is at, and you know how much
prices on it.
Yeah. So it's perfect. So I found that and I posted in the main chat so that other people could like front run that guy if they want to.
And then the trick so that's for Uniswap. And then if you want to see OX exchange, which includes matcha, the website is metric.exchange.
Okay. Let me type that in so I remember, because I've never actually used that, even though I've heard of it before. I just never used it.
So metric.exchange. It's a little ugly, but it does the same thing as matcha.xyz, but you can see the order book. So if you put in Pulse Doge coin and then USDC, you'll see all the OX and matcha orders.
Yeah, nice.
So like for me personally, what I do is like I've been loving Pulse Doge. I've been actually having some fun degenning it because there's some great volatility. So I go into metric.exchange, $4.99, sell. And then it's done that twice. It's wicked up to $5. I sold $4.99 each, right in my little limit orders. And then it comes back down a day later and you buy back at $2.50. And you just play this double game back and forth. So far, it's been working.
The only thing I will say, this is my only cautionary remark, is that Pulse Doge has exceedingly low liquidity. So while you can probably make some very good trades, you never know like who might step into the market without like any warning or notice. For example, what if like the real Godwill likes these streams and it's like listening, like we don't even know. And he's like, I kind of like Pulse Doge. I like what they're doing, like what they're committed to. And then just like without anyone knowing, just steps in and like just 2x's the price like he or she did in the early days of HEX.
Yeah, he would.
So
And
that's
leave
only
me behind.
yeah.
I got
So that's so then you get stopped out of the market and left behind. So
Yeah.
that is one danger to actually that's actually one risk actually with LP positions, is that a whale could just like pull it up and be like, this is how much Pulse Doge is in this LP position. I'm gonna go ahead and buy that out in one move. Boom, instantly buys it because they just calculate how much cash is required to buy it up. What's funny is earlier on, like when Pulse Doge was like first like launched and like trading and all that, someone, no one knows who, but someone created, they essentially moved the price up to like $5.04. And then they created a very generous buy wall from $3.69 to $3.31, which was exceedingly generous because that wallet could have probably created a buy wall between, let's say, like $1 and $1.25. But so I kind of speculate that maybe that address did that because it's a bear market and people are hurting for money. And so it was like a nice show of like generosity to give people free money and have more value by giving them exit liquidity. It's kind of interesting. Is that true? Is it not true? I guess nobody will know.
Well, I mean, it is true if people were getting their orders filled at a massive buy wall at that level, because previously Pulse Doge coin went as low as 75 cents. So yeah, I mean, that's like a triple premium from the bottom. So
yeah, it launched at $1, went to $5.04, right? Or it launched at $1, went up to like $2 and change, crashed to 73 cents, $5.04, and then
250, 250, and now we're just bouncing right in there.
What was crazy is that buy wall was eaten through, and I think what that suggests is that buy walls don't necessarily protect the price. This happened in HEX too. There was a giant buy wall at 20 cents, and it was eaten through, and the price went down eventually to 3.6 cents. So what it suggests is even if you put in a lot of money into something with a buy wall, the market will choose what it wants, whether up, down, or sideways, and eventually it'll just go to the price that was determined by the free market. So it's kind of interesting in terms of like, I don't know, it's kind of fascinating to think about, I guess.
Oh, totally. And there's players who suck that cash out at certain times. The macroeconomics are kind of bearish right now. Everybody's tightening, Fed's raising rates, economy's going crazy. So sure, people nowadays they'll take the cash, they're scared and they'll sell their coins. So.
Or many swap for HEX, which is great. Many swap for HEX. They maybe they added to their positions with TShares, or they held it liquid or whatever. So like we always encourage that. Like
that's a pro move. Yeah, that works.
It's still good. I mean, look, HEX crashed 93%. And if you love HEX, go ahead, swap Pulse Doge for HEX or any other assets. I think the only thing I think that the one dangerous mindset I think that people have is a maximalist mindset where they're like, you can only have one asset in your wallet. That's it. If you have any other asset, then like only one asset, like you can't hold anything else.
Not anymore.
I think that's the most absurd position to hold.
And PulseChain's coming soon, so that will literally be impossible. We're gonna have the Richard Hart Trinity, and then you're gonna have all the supporting coins around it.
Exactly. You got HEX, you got Pulse, you got PulseX, you got Pulse Doge, you've got maybe Helgo if you like that when it launches. You've got if you like Hedron because of HSIs, you've got that. The tokenomics with the token itself is, I don't want to get into that, but like I fully support the HSIs. Fully support 100% the HSI.
Did you see that new HSI market that just came out like yesterday or the day before?
I'm sorry?
Tell everybody about that, David.
Yeah, so there's a new, I think it's called HSI market. And it's a new, it's basically just an NFT trading platform just for HEX staked instances. So that just came out the other day. I'm not sure if it's from Alex or not, the founder of Hedron. I don't know if he developed it or if somebody else in the community did, but so far it looks cool. It's really very simple. It's just kind of 2 orders right now posted. So that just came out. I tweeted about, and then ironically, the guys who made matcha.xyz from the OX exchange, they just invented trader.xyz.
I was just going to mention that. Yeah, because I wanted to see if you guys had looked into that.
Well, I did. I watched that hour-long video and I tweeted about it. They had like a Q&A on the OX channel on YouTube, and like, ironic, they have I have more subscribers than they do. They're like under 3K. It's so like nobody watches, but it's cool. Like you can sell an NFT with no platform fees, and I can I have an HSI. I want to sell it to you, Gunther, and it just makes a link, and I just send you the link. And you click the link, you either accept the deal or you don't, and that's it. And
now I'm Mega Rex because I sold a bundle of HSIs to another shark in Hex. I sold $750,000 of HSIs as the largest in Hex history as an over-the-counter trade on OpenSea. I ate the 2.5% fee, but I bundled the HSIs together as one bundle. So
nice.
So it was nice. Yeah. And you can also on OpenSea, you can reserve it for like a specific ETH address so that nobody else can buy it.
Oh, like I literally took
a nap. Yeah, it was so cool. I took a nap and I woke up and there's like this fat stack of like USDC sitting in my wallet. I was like, yes. The only thing you got to be careful.
That's the way to wake up.
Yeah, no, it's a great way. And then I was like, let me inject some of that into Pulse Doge. Let me get the party started.
That's cool.
I won't say how much I injected, but I did a lot. But anyway,
I'd be curious what the other person did. Did they detokenize them, or did they repost them for a profit, or they just?
I didn't actually check, but I did suggest that whoever purchased those, that they should detokenize and not have it like stay in that state. That way, it's good to go for like for PulseChain, I guess. And they were all 5555 HSIs. So the buyer is forced to either hold or sell to someone else, which is the beauty of this. Like they can't end stake because then they would get nothing, right?
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. And the buyer was happy, of course, because let's say she increased their T-shares. Control Alt F9, it just reloads. So Brizology was asking what that does. For the Excel spreadsheet, it sort of just updates some of the automatic functions in Excel so that it'll basically just change the numbers like instantly. Let's see if I can. So for example, Control Alt F9. You guys see the numbers move?
I think so.
Yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, I have so many questions. I'm trying to keep them all organized in my mind. Because we've been talking about a few different topics here that are all super valuable, I think, for the audience. I know that when it comes to Dogecoin stuff, I can you and I can talk later maybe about how to use this particular connection I have to get in front of an audience of about 100,000 people who are in the Elon Doge community.
Nice.
That maybe we can try to work together to bring those people into Hex.
Yeah, nice.
Through Pulse Dogecoin or whatever.
It's Dogelon Mars, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The ticker is Elon. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
that's awesome. I mean, that's ultimately like what, and I've been tweeting about this recently and also posting messages in the Pulse Doge chat. I've been telling people like, hey, we don't want to be leeching off of Hex because recycled money is really stupid. That's the form of like cannibalization. And obviously people are free to make choices about which assets they swap, right? Like whatever the assets that they swap, right? Whether you're swapping for Pulse Doge or swapping back for Hex or whatever people do. So we're not saying that. We're just saying like, don't leech off of Hex's success and Hex's community. I would rather see people outreach directly to, let's say, Doge. I think Doge is the perfect place. Look at the name, Pulse Doge. We have all the marketing. There's so much money that's in Doge. In fact, the inflation is so stupid in Doge that Doge inflates at 10,000 tokens per minute. That equates to 5.2 billion tokens of inflation per year. The price is currently at 8 cents. That means you have to inject $420 million every year just to paint the price sideways at 8 cents.
It's over $1 million a day. That's like, do you just have to burn into the wood chipper just to maintain?
You buy, literally had to buy $1 million like over $1 million every day just to paint it sideways. We're not even talking about bull run. So all these guys talking about, oh, Doge is all bullish. Guys, I'm trying to save you guys. If you're listening, if any Doge guys are listening to me, which I doubt there would be, but just if any of you guys listen to me, please, I'm trying to save you guys. I want to bring those guys into Pulse Doge, and I want to use Pulse Doge as a Trojan horse. Hey, come into our city, PulseChain City, and now let us introduce you into everything that could actually make you into a multi-millionaire. HEX, Pulse, PulseX, Helgo, maybe some other things that people like, Maximus, right? Anything. I don't own any Maximus, but I like the fact that they buy it, stake it for 5.555. So I support it just on that principle alone.
Maximus is great.
Yeah,
I sold out too early when the premium went too high. I never expected it.
I'm gonna argue against Maxi with David later, and Gunther is welcome to join. But if you guys don't mind, I just want to backtrack to a few of the topics. Like I have a couple of points on things we've already talked about, and then we can move on. So one observation that I have here that I want to see if you can maybe confirm or like weigh in on is that the OA, it had to buy HEX to get that much HEX. Is that reasonable to assume? So the OA automatically gets 50% of the emergency end stakes.
Yeah.
And the OA, like, but maybe the OA could have recycled enough ETH in the early days to like stop people from arbing and to provide other like.
No, it's not even maybe it did.
Yes.
That's the point of the audit, is that I found the addresses when I looked on hex.vision of large addresses that went into the adoption amplifier that minted fat stacks of HEX. I went through those and saw the same behavior, and they were all instantly staked like at the same time. So we do know that like ETH was brought into the adoption amplifier to mint HEX. That HEX was later staked right before big payday for a few days. Then the stakes were matured and they were ended, and then the tokens just sit dormant forever. So yes, there was ETH that went into the adoption amplifier, and that's not a bad thing. It was just a smart way of acquiring a position.
It would be really curious for somebody to try to do the calculation someday, and maybe I'll get my data analysis skills on the blockchain to the point where they've been with like working with brainwave data and stuff to where I can do the queries myself. But like it seems like it could be able to be calculated how much ETH actually went in from how much user ETH was used versus recycled ETH and that sort of thing would be.
Yeah. You're talking about ETH from the flush address, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so, that it's just curious because in order to get 97% of the supply, I'm just wondering, like, part of the narrative that I've been inferring is that the OA may have been, market buying some of the bottoms. And is that known or unknown at this time?
Not market buying, but picking up a stronger position in other ways.
Do you know if the OA has like provided liquidity in a way that it sold HEX?
No. So we're talking about LP positions via buy walls, but not sell walls.
Fascinating. Okay, I'm glad I asked. Another.
I just won't release. I won't say any more than that. I probably said too much already.
I understand. And it's so that brings me to my next point, which is like, are there or are there not like tools that the OA could have used to increase its privacy? And does that allow us to infer that maybe it wants a transparency situation?
That's kind of outside the scope of my knowledge, actually, because I've never actually messed around with like Tornado Cash or any of that stuff. So I guess that's more outside of my scope. Maybe I guess. See, like, this is beautiful thing about blockchain. Everything's like there. It's transparent, and if you dig deep enough, you can find information. And
what about when people send like centralized exchange supported coins to a centralized exchange, which has, you know, the downside that now the government's like logging your crypto, but it has the potential upside that it creates like a dead end for anybody who's trying to trail your address.
Yeah, I do like the dead end aspect of it, especially if you've got I'm looking at battery 79's comment. So I get distracted. My mind like gets distracted if I see something like the attention span, then I go off in that direction.
You're good.
Yeah. So like if you have like doxed addresses, then one thing that someone could consider is taking your money from your wallets, moving that onto an exchange, and then creating like a brand new like wallet
Yes.
from like a hardware device which has never been used, and then send fresh money from the exchange to that like new like ETH address. So now you get a fresh set of seed words and the money's sitting in a fresh wallet, and like it's never been used before. I guess the only downside is if you have wallets that have a large amount of money and those assets don't exist on an exchange, then you would have to sell it first, which could destroy like a price chart and like basically make a coin go to zero if you're like hold like a large like whale position in something. So you can't really do something like that. Like you're sort of like, I guess you could only extract like small percentages like over time, but you couldn't just like mega dump like a position, because that could really destroy a coin.
So so that can be left to the audience to consider, you know, like why or why not the OA may have like not used more privacy techniques along the way to, you know, to do its operations. I think that it's a fascinating question of like transparency, and certainly the way that I've looked at it is that Richard, there are things that he can't say because he doesn't want HEX to be considered a security.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that he doesn't want those things said.
Yeah, because possibly other people could say it and it's not coming from his mouth, and so like there's more protection for him. Because obviously honestly at the end of the day, no one can actually. So what I created is not a mathematical rigorous proof to prove ownership.
Probabilistic.
I don't think you can do that. It's not a like unless you have like real like evidence of like where people dox themselves with like ENS and that type of thing, right? But like this you can only really demonstrate. I would use the word demonstrate. You can demonstrate the same behavior across multiple addresses and probably assign them to like one owner or owners or entity or entities, right? But like you can't like it's not like a full like mathematical like rigorous proof. Like proofs in math are extremely rigorous.
Yeah. So, you know, we know that there, you know, that we know that there haven't been double spends in HEX. That's proof. But the, you know, the exact, you know, if somebody was like acting like the OA acted in those 3 days, which were the basis of your methodology, then like, you know, then they could have gotten miscategorized. So it's not definitive, but I think that your methodology makes a lot of sense from a game theory perspective and from just an overall kind of like, these are accounts that they're bleeding out to the inflation in HEX, you know, so who, you know, and they haven't sold. So who cares?
Yeah.
Like
money's not moving. So or let's put it this way, even if money is moving across like different addresses, because sometimes money moves from like SAC addresses to other addresses or whatever. Money's like moving, but it's essentially like taking money from your pocket in the left hand and putting it in your pocket in the right hand. Who cares about that? As long as that money is like not coming out of one of those pockets and like mega dumping on the market. Now it would be interesting. The real purpose of HEX, one of the real purposes of HEX for Richard is to solve like disease and for longevity. You need billions and billions of dollars to do that. So I speculate that in the future, HEX is so valuable that some of these addresses could extract value in a very responsible way, maybe via like one-sided liquidity or limited orders or something like that. and it could just be a very, very small percentage relative to the whole position, so it doesn't murder the price. But you would be able to extract value and inject that into organizations that are actually working on like longevity and solving diseases. That's a beautiful thing. That's not a bad thing. That's why I don't think founders should ever burn tokens. It's the stupidest thing you could possibly do. Why would you ever burn money that could be used at a later date that's worth a lot, and you could inject that into the real world and the real economy and solve real world problems? It's literally the stupidest thing you could possibly do.
One of the first streams I was on with Richard, he yelled at me and told me not to burn any. Well, like I was trying to get clever, because I was like, oh, we can use HEX for so many things, like behavior change. I was like, if I don't go on a 4-mile run tomorrow, then I'm gonna burn whatever. It was like $100 or $200 worth of HEX back then, which is like tens of thousands of coins now. And of course, I knew that the way that HEX, the way that the code was written, it stops you from being able to burn the coins. And so the only way you can like get rid of them is to send them to a wallet that like you deleted your own private keys to and like didn't record. So
well, I mean, there's even an easier solution. You could just send it to the contract address, because there's no admin keys, and so not even Richard Hart could recover the money for you.
Wow.
Just sit there forever. And actually, if you look at the contract address, you will see money sitting in that wallet. That's every fool that sent money to the contract address. Guys, don't send money to a contract address that doesn't have admin keys. You'll never get the money back. And if it does have admin keys, you'll never get the money back either. Whoever controls the admin keys will never send you the money back.
Oh yeah, I know people who tried to sacrifice for PulseChain and accidentally sent it to the HEX contract address and it was gone. It's like,
yeah, oh man, guys, like you got to pay attention to what you're doing. This is all interesting stuff.
Yeah, totally. Now, we then went on to like the topic of market dumping, and it seemed like there may have been instances maybe where it wasn't a simple rule of never market dump, or that market dumping is the dumb move, because you had an instance where you found that you stopped believing in Hedron, or like you updated your worldview, and then you realized basically, because everybody was always dumping on your head in HEX, that it'd benefit you to front run that. And then we're also talking about how if you have buy walls and sell walls and stuff, that can inform other market participants in a way where sometimes they can front run you. When we did the thought experiment, if everybody did it. So I'm just curious if we're summarizing or further elucidating like that part of our discussion, what would you guys say to the idea that market dumping can be a smarter move sometimes?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, David, what do you think? I've been doing a lot of talking, so
yeah, I mean, it's not often I sell, to be honest. When I do, I like matcha.xyz. So I like limit orders. They're easy. I don't do the Uniswap one-sided positions. I don't use those personally. I just use automatic matcha limit orders. So when the price hits what I want, it fills. That's it. Easy, simple. It trades the coins. I don't pay the gas, because the maker or the taker does that, because I'm the maker. So I'm putting up my coins to trade, and then somebody has to fulfill my order. I love it. It's easy. I'll never go back to dumping.
I guess we could give a real case of where like market dumping like worked out in people's favor. So let's take the Hedron example, right? So there was a whale, or I guess a high shark, that that minted like 1 trillion Hedron against its stakes, and then dumped them all at the very beginning of Hedron. That's what created like a major crash in the market. I saw that as a great opportunity. I was like, 6 leading zeros. They just crashed the price. This might be a good opportunity. So I injected a substantial amount of money to buy Hedron like close to the bottom. So that gave me, and other people did the same thing. That gave us an opportunity, because we were able to increase our position. So in full transparency, and I do this just to be like, I want people to know that like I'm being honest with them and not lying to them or being deceitful in any way. I minted 77 billion Hedron tokens against my stakes. I'm a shark in the network. And I bought about 106 billion at the bottom. So I had about 183 billion Hedron tokens. So I bought my way into the market. I didn't just mint free money. Then you had that mega bull run where it went up 13 times in value in 9 days.
Oh, we were in Vegas.
Some would say I kicked that off by fudding it and spreading awareness to everybody. You're welcome.
yeah. That actually, the FUD campaign was perfect. That also like played into everything. It was perfect.
Yep.
And like no big deal. Like, you know, we all like whatever. We all make mistakes. Maybe you did the FUD campaign. I was the rugger of Hedron. That's but anyway, the price did like this mega bull run. I had a few days prior to that, like done like a live stream. I was invited on to talk about Hedron and was very bullish on it, just from different aspects. But things like market dynamics change. And I realized, I guess it kind of dawned on me after like thinking about it for a few days, like really, really thinking hard about it. And then also consulting like a team of my like private like analysts. Like I thought like there was just too much, like I thought there was that basically a design flaw with Hedron. And I hate to even say it because I don't want it to look like I'm like fudding like Hedron or anything like that, because it's not the case. It's just my own personal opinion. I feel like and we're not talking about HSIs. I love HSIs. I'm just talking about the token itself. The fact that like larger players can mint across all their stakes for every day, even if they minted like everything and sold, they could still mint like for each day that served for each stake, and they get a 10x multiplier for the life of those stakes if they did it in like the early days. So I see that as almost like an inflation problem, where too much inflation is introduced at one point in time, which could drag the price down and accelerate it too fast and too low. So even when even after it went up 13 times in value in 9 days, it crashed and it didn't form a double bottom. It formed a lower low. And usually what that happens in a price chart, it's really hard. It's like basically it's on life support basically. And I emphasize, I'm not fudding anyone's Hedron position. I'm just being completely honest and transparent and just sharing my opinion as I view it. So I saw that as like a potential problem. The other thing I realized, I was like, this thing went up 13 times in 9 days. Whenever that happens in crypto, the probability of it crashing is really high. It's like insanely high, like high 90%, probably like 98 or 99% chance that price will go down versus go up. I also realized that large wallets were already dumping, like the price was already crashing. They were already like mega dumping. And like from my perspective, I've had people just mega dumping on me in HEX for several consecutive months. And I've never really extracted any like large value other than like, let's say I sold some HEX for like my Tesla. That was like a good purchase. Or like I rented like an apartment for like 13 months, right? Or maybe paid off a few debts or whatever, but nothing like crazy. So for me, like I had delayed gratification as an early adopter and was in HEX in day one. So I just was tired of those, like some of those wallets, and I sort of just front ran those guys. Because I did some math. I was like, damn, Hedron is crazy. I was like, because the price was so high, and even after it had started crashing, I calculated like how much money like a major player in HEX could earn per month as like residual like revenue, just like mint it and then like what, like based on the current value. And I did the calculation and it was like $25,000 per month for like the wallets that I control. And I was thinking about all the other large players. I was like, you think like all these like large players, they could mint basically $25,000 of residual revenue? I was like, this sounds great, but it's almost like too good to be true. This is like infinite sell pressure. Because like a lot of the stakes of these guys exist for like 10 to 15 years. Like my average stake length is 11 years. So I also basically, like I mentioned, I had some very, I had a bunch of analysts that are very important to me that I think are some of the best analysts in HEX, and people don't even know who they are. They're some of the best analysts of HEX, and they just do a great job when it comes to like chain analysis. These guys know what they're doing.
They need a cool name, like a secret society of analysts or something.
They're great. I just won't disclose who they are for privacy reasons. I won't dox anyone. But I actually consulted them, and I said, hey, like, do you all think it's a good idea to maybe like extract 5% of my position or like the whole position? And the majority actually voted that in terms of like just a trade, just in terms of like, is it a good trade or a bad trade? Would you make the trade? And the majority said to trade everything. And so I did. I blitz dumped. And it was hard in that position because I felt like the price was like right on the verge of just completely failing and crashing. So that's why I blitz dumped it. So it did create a bunch of like panic and fear in the market. I could tell because I was also like reading the Hedron chats. It was crazy. This is actually good. This was actually good, good for people to hear because then they can kind of learn a little bit about like exit liquidity. And I hate, even though like I set like a bad example in this, it's good to maybe learn from my example and you can kind of understand markets better. There was actually a guy in the Hedron chat, the trading chat, warning people, hey, stop hitting the buy button because you're giving this dumper more exit liquidity. And it's weird because I was selling like I was selling basically in batches of a few billion at a time, and I was selling like every few minutes. I took a break to like go to the bathroom, get a cup of coffee, maybe get a drink. And the buyers were buying the dip. So they were buying the price up, and the price was actually becoming higher than when I first started selling. So my point is that if you see a situation like that, don't give the mega dumper more value. Don't give them more exit liquidity that they're just only going to turn around and use against you. Like it will only benefit them. It won't benefit you. So it's kind of like just a learning lesson for both sides, I guess.
Yeah. And another example of that is, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, I was doing an episode of HEX Therapy where I was recommending people like, it's dollar cost average in, dollar cost average out, like, be comfortable with be comfortable with your short-term and long-term plays and like be honest with yourself. I'd given people a great speech. And then, right after the episode ended, that's when we saw this big dip down to like 4.2 cents or around that level. And so I was lucky enough to catch it. But before I went in and started buying, I went to the HEX trading chat and I wanted to see if people had identified what was going on with this dump. Like how long was it going to last? What were the analytics on that person's wallet who was selling? And I was able to gain a little bit more confidence in that particular dip by checking that chat and benefiting from, reading and listening for like maybe 10 or 20 minutes before people started like explaining what was going on. But that created a really awesome opportunity for me to buy like, another $500 or $1,000 worth of HEX at a price that was, low at the time. So.
Yeah. You bring up a very good point too. So like the positive side of people mega dumping is one, that person that's doing that is eating slippage, driving the price down against themselves. Some of these fools are swapping on MetaMask. Come on, guys. Stop using MetaMask for swaps. Stop using MetaMask for swaps. You're literally putting money into their pockets and basically sucking middleman dick. Like
the airdrop's only gonna be worth $2,000. So, take it easy. Don't give up more than that in fees.
Yeah. So just don't swap on MetaMask. Use Matcha, use 1inch, use Uniswap. You have so many things that are available to you. It's like retarded. Anyway, by people mega dumping though, blitz dumping or whatever, it does give people an opportunity in most instances. because the price crashes, like in HEX, for example, price crashes from 51.3 cents down to 3.6 cents. That's what you call an opportunity. The HEX is a great fucking product. It's my favorite asset. I love HEX. It crashed 93% over the span of like 8 months or however long it's been. It's been 9 months. I just stopped looking. I closed the price chart. It's too painful. I was like, please. Instead of like seeing those like glorious like green candles, it's like I can't take the red candles anymore. Like it's like being like burning in like hell, like fire and brimstone. Like I can't take the red candles anymore. But anyway, like the point is like, look, what a beautiful opportunity to now redistribute a lot of that wealth to other players. Now, it isn't just a redistribution. You also have these other players you have to really watch out for that will basically sell every lower high from the peak. They'll solicit exit liquidity from you on public platforms, and then they'll come back in with a limit order and buy the dip. So they're basically duping you.
I think that I would imagine that would be a slippery slope for people who have like social media presence and big bags, that there's a whole psychology around that. For you, you know, you had an experience where you publicly praised Hedron and then you changed your opinion on it 3 days later. So how would you differentiate somebody who is doing that multiple times versus yourself? And did you learn anything about the psychology of a dumper or somebody, you know, like,
well, I mean, I can honestly speak for myself. Like I take full ownership for what I did. You notice with me, what you're getting is honesty. You're getting transparency. You're getting genuineness. I owned up to it. I did not deny it. I did not deflect it. You can look at my eyes and see that I am telling you the truth. My body language suggests that I am being fully honest with people. So I think a lot of it just comes down to being honest with people. I think that's like the most important thing. You don't have to disclose things like this, but like at the same time, if someone confronts you, you don't want to be deceitful or be lying to people like openly, right? I just don't like that. So to be fully, to be perfectly clear without mincing words, there's no stuttering, there's no like hiding behind some bush, or there's no like whatever. I don't like the optics of what I did. From an optics point of view, I was wrong, plain and simple. Am I allowed to do what's in the best interest of my wallet? Yes. Can I make, they're my keys, it's my coins, it's my money, it's my decisions, but it's also my consequences too, from an optics point of view. So from an optics point of view, I know that it hurt a lot of people. And so that I have to actually live with that decision because I know real money was at stake. Now, am I fully responsible for what I did? I don't think so. I don't think that's fair. And here's why. I don't blame other people because I listen to them speak about an asset and then I make a decision that I think is like I make the decision to put my money into a market. I am fully responsible as an investor for making that decision. It doesn't matter what somebody else said. People have to take, there has to be personal responsibility and personal accountability for each of us for every single decision that we make in these markets, whether we understand them or not. And I can assure you, a lot of the people that hate me are very poor traders and do not understand the markets that they participate in. And I'll tell you why. Richard saw this, and I also saw this, and whatever, other people saw this. Many people were emergency end staking HEX at the local bottom of 10 cents to buy the peak of Hedron. Players like me came and extracted that value, so the market crashed. So these people ate the penalties of emergency end staking, got wrecked by selling like that local bottom of HEX, bought the top, and then it crashed on them. That is very poor trading. And you decided to make those decisions. You gambled with money that you could not afford to gamble with. And then you look for a scapegoat and you look for villains in the market to blame. I think that's fucked up. How about personal agency, personal accountability, personal responsibility? I don't blame, I own HEX. I'm a shark in the network. I don't blame all these guys that have been dumping on me for 9 months and say, hey, you guys have destroyed my wallet. Fuck you guys. I mean, I don't like it, the fact that they did it, but I don't blame them for the decisions that I made to put my money into HEX. That is my decision, my responsibility. So I think we need to see more of that in crypto. Stop whining like a bunch of bitches and attacking people in private DMs and threatening them and using blackmail and extortion because they played a better game of chess than you did in a financial market that you do not understand, that you should probably not be participating in. Those guys should probably just buy HEX, build a staking ladder, and don't ever hit the fucking buy or sell button until their stake matures, because they don't understand these markets and they're going to get fucking obliterated. So I guess that's my thoughts on that.
Totally.
So
go
ahead.
Go ahead. I just want to say real quick, that last point is a great strategy for everybody out there who's not a trader. Just make a ladder and chill. And yeah, you don't have to do all that nonsense. Yeah. Go ahead, Maddie.
So should we thank a whale who's, extracting value from traders and then buying back up the price to if they're going to be a more long-term holder in the end, if they're going to be a net positive for the community, then is that okay? If they do it?
I guess that's just subject to like personal opinion. I mean, I personally would not like to see that kind of behavior. That's just me though. But everyone has their own set of morals. Like morality is subjective. Things are not black and white. My set of morals and principles might differ from yours. I also grew up in a cult for 27 years and was brainwashed as a child. However, even in that cult upbringing, I learned a set of principles and morals that I really thank my parents for, because I think it made me a better human being. That's why I can own up to things and like tell people the truth, for example, and be transparent with people and be more genuine. It's because of a lot of that upbringing. So I think it just depends maybe on your set of morals, which are not exactly black and white. There isn't just like a clear cut what's right, what's wrong. It's subjective.
Yeah. And I mean, and the crypto markets are very much the Wild West. So yeah, there's nothing to stop anybody from going out on Twitter. I can do some FUD. I could start some dumping and then buy the dip. Like that's in the game, Elon does it with Dogecoin. Like, yeah, I mean, there are people who move markets for sure, up and down for their own benefit.
And also you brought up a point about the dumping. What's the positive of the dumping? The dumping is like, let's talk about the guy that pulled the 140 million HEX from the LP position and mega dumped. By the way, the most retarded thing that I've seen possibly in HEX history, one of the most, maybe not the most, but like it's really up there. I just think it was a foolish move because just ate fat slippage and drove the price down against yourself. I never checked to see if the address bought back in. I just know what happened. That crashed the price to 3.6 cents, but that gave everyone, like you're saying, Maddie, a buying opportunity. People are just loving the fact that they just bought HEX for 3.6 cents or 4 cents or 5 cents or 6 cents when the price was at 51 cents. Here's the beauty of that. If you bought HEX at 5 cents, when the price recovers to 50 cents, you just 10x your money. That is badass. So if you put in 10,000, now it's worth 100,000. If you staked it, now you've got an interest. And then that interest is also getting USD price appreciation. So, I mean, like that's a solid move. And that's just returning to the previous all-time high. Eventually, we'll probably have some like rounded bottom type of situation where it takes several months because this is HEX is painted, I would say at least a multi-month bear market crash pattern on the chart. Could be like, we don't know how long it will last. Could be 1 year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years, like worst case scenario. We don't know. No one knows that. But it should essentially create like a rounded bottom. The price moves back up. It has to fight all the supports that it broke, which a lot of people don't understand. Every support that was broken is now resistance for the price. So it has to go and battle each fucking resistance. Like it's got to battle 6 cents. It's got to battle 10 cents. It's got to battle, like all the way up to 20 cents and 30 cents. It's got to battle its way up. So it'll like go up, crash, go up, crash, go up, crash, and just have to keep retesting it multiple times. And eventually the price goes back up to 51.3 cents. Now it's basically a cup and handle. That's the cup. Sellers come out. They're like, oh, it returned to the price. A lot of sellers that maybe broke even, they're like, they want to like get out, and that creates the handle. And then, but usually a cup and handle of this nature is so, not usually, it's so fucking bullish. It's crazy what HEX could actually go to after this cup and handle forms. So if you're playing a long game and you're just buying HEX and creating your beautiful staking ladder with like annual stakes every 6 months, every quarter, every month, whatever you're doing, whatever your game plan is, in the end, you're going to win big. You are going to win big. It's just stake and chill is what it comes down to, like we've been preaching since day one.
Amen, Reverend.
To recap some of like the major insights we've uncovered on this show, 75% of HEX users are staking, or 75% of like the coins that are user controlled have been staking, not 10%. So that should blow your mind and make you long-term bullish on HEX, because the average is 6.6 years that people are time locking. Another insight is, if the staker league is showing you that you're a crab, you're actually a dolphin. Like if we do the math correctly by subtracting out the OA controlled coins. And so that means all you dolphins out there are whales.
We gotta fix it. Actually, I think we should get rid of all the centralized ownership addresses and weed all those out and just deal with the rest of the addresses. Maybe somebody can work on that.
It would be so cool.
Not going to be me, but maybe somebody else.
Yeah, it would be so cool to know what our actual ranks are.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to take that even to the next level, DM me or hit me up like on Thursday when I'm reading all the comments, so we can actually incorporate Tshare years and not just Tshares. Would be even more 5D chess. So now here's another topic. Or David, do you want to ask the next question? Because I can switch gears whenever.
Oh, I don't have anything prepared. No, you go right ahead.
So I got triggered yesterday on. So let's finish up on this this whole point. So I think like it's really a mixed bag when we analyze the behavior of like whales who are supposedly dumping and that sort of thing. I think that calling people out publicly, like, it has its pros and cons. I think upsetting people is, not the goal of that. That part of the ethos of crypto is to be like both permissionless and transparent. And those are ideals that like maybe don't sit as well with you once you're the person with the big bags compared to when you're the little guy. And remember, the whole point of the HEX, system and the groundbreaking invention that is HEX staking, the whole point is to create new whales. And so as all of us trying to be the new whales in the system, like there's a lot that we have probably to learn about and having these difficult conversations. And I think that personally, I like Steph a lot, and I, want him to get the respect that he deserves in the community. And at the same time, I want people to remember that, this is it's a transparent market. And if you're, telling people what your addresses are, then it's going to be hard for people to not comment about that, I guess.
Yeah. I've realized too recently, like I've sort of, because people have seen me on Twitter, like just ranting and raving and raging about all kinds of things. And I've just realized like recently, further updating my worldview and just like changing my perspective and just a little bit of like self-reflection, self-awareness. I think I'd rather just try to be more like glue that glues HEX back together instead of be the one that's like tearing it down or tearing it apart. I think the love message is probably more effective and united. Like, we're all suffering, let's suffer together, like in this bear market. And then when in the bull market, when we got face melting fat green candles, and we can all rejoice together, that type of thing. I think it's a better approach. So I apologize, I guess, if I've offended people in the HEX community that just like recently, just from my perspective, it's just like just how I am. It's hard for me to it's hard for me to suppress things inside if I know that something violates like core principles that I believe in. Like if I believe it to be wrong, and it's like very like if I think it's like behavior that's like very like atrocious, it's just hard for me to stay silent. I'm just not that type of person. I'm the type of person to speak up. I'm the type of person to rock the fucking boat, to create like waves in the ocean.
So
like,
just to be clear, because like this drives me nuts when I'm on live streams and people are like alluding to things that haven't actually been stated in that live stream, is like, so what I think you're talking about, to catch everybody up, is this idea of somebody like doing an alleged like furu type of behavior, which is like you publicly say, hey, buy this thing, and you're the one dumping it. And then when you're done dumping it and you have all those people's money that you created the pump with, then you can buy even more coins back up and tell everybody, hey, you know, the market is, you know, it's overheated right now. So spread out your buys and let the price go down. You know, that's the type of thing that maybe you're identifying as like, you know, if somebody has been doing that multiple times in multiple parts of the cycle, and that's public information, then that is something that that you're finding like to be bad behavior, and you know, it's just something that we need to understand or address. Or I'm not sure how, as a community, we can get to the bottom of something like that without ruffling feathers. So I see like I see the work of like bringing the transparency to people who can't do the chain analysis as like valuable, in the sense that it keeps the broadcasters and influencers like in check. Like, isn't that something we want for our community? And at the same time, like whenever there's a difficult conversation to be had, everybody starts saying, oh, there's too much drama, like this is why the, you know, more people aren't in HEX. And I don't think that all difficult conversations should be considered drama, but at the same time, like, are there better ways, you know, to go about like addressing these things? And we're all learning as we go, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you make some good points. Like I feel like that, just me personally, this is my personal opinion. I just find that behavior very distasteful. It seems sleazy to me. Like I don't like it. I just don't like that type of behavior. Are people still going to do that? Yes. When we analyze these wallets, should we make it public? Probably not. If we're cornered, then maybe we're forced to. For example, on a stream, like it was demanded of me to provide evidence. It was a demand. It wasn't like, hey, like don't release any information, because I don't like to dox addresses. I don't believe in that. I believe in people should have privacy. Like I feel like they have that right. I want things to be private. I didn't like it when I tried to help somebody, by the way, in the Hedron main chat with like a screenshot, and it showed a few like it was somebody that was trying to like claim for Gnosis Safe for Hedron or through Gnosis Safe, and they took that screenshot and then traced back all my addresses and then released it to 60,000 people. I did not like that, because that was my intention was to help someone, right? And then they publicly doxed me. And then that's why I had signed statements later, because I was like, well, I'm doxxed. I might as well own it. And now I'm going to make a message. Like, and that's what I did with the signed statements. That was a real like message, like, hey, like I'm tired of like seeing what's happening. And, you know, anyway. So there's that aspect. I also think it's kind of like a WikiLeaks type of situation, where just because you have information and you know you're right, it doesn't mean that it's wise to release that to the public, because the consequences of doing so could be more catastrophic and you could cause more harm. And so that's why lately I've sort of changed my tune on Twitter. I think people prefer lies. I don't think people want the truth. People would prefer sugary water or a sugary coated tablet. And if that's what people prefer, that's what I'll give them. I will give them a sugary tablet, and I'll do my best to try to maybe spread more love and harmony and unison, because I think having a united kingdom Kingdom, Kingdom, cult, group, hex, whatever you want to call it, because I mean, yeah, Kingdom is kind of cool. All cryptos, by the way, basically have the same like cult-like characteristics, right? So that's why I sort of like call it a cult, but I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean like it's just like a community that is like has a tremendous amount of faith in something, and they all gather around that thing and sort of like believe it, and then the price goes up, basically. But anyway, I lost my train of thought. This happens to me sometimes. Where was I going with this? Anyway, I guess the point is, I think having a united community supersedes it's greater than to expose actors that I may not like, or let's put it this way, behaviors of those actors that I may not like, right? I think it's just more important to be united, and that's why like research probably should just be private. There's a lot of people that are looking. There's a lot of people that know. You know, I don't know. It's kind of, there's pros and cons to all this, I guess.
I'll give you my personal experience is that it really sucks to be honest with people about things that are unpopular and they don't want to hear. And so I took like a huge hit to my reputation when I like spoke out against like the game theory of Hedron, specifically because of the tradable stakes. You know, since then I've like, you know, I've listened enough to other people to personally be like less concerned about tradable stakes, in the sense that it functions very similar to liquid hex. And so but this kind of transitions to another thing. And I guess what I'm saying though is that I probably could not go on delivering such bad news to people that like their free money isn't like the best thing that ever happened to them. And so that's really bullish for PulseChain. I think like we're going to get millions of adopters and everything. But I also think it puts us in a dilemma as broadcasters that, you know, that it's so taxing emotionally when you get the blowback of people not being happy with what you're saying. Like, you know, why shouldn't we be happy with like the transparency and accountability that's being delivered by this sort of thing? I think that but everybody's at a different like emotional point in their journey. And so for myself, you know, maybe I wouldn't have appreciated honesty at certain points in that journey myself. And so it's a complicated like thing to navigate, but I commend you for, you know, holding back, but also like trying to be, you know, taking on that burden of being honest and transparent. You've, you know, identified areas where, you know, you did something that you don't want to do again in the future. You called somebody out for something that you saw as being like, you know, not helpful to the community and kind of harmful to the community and that sort of thing. And so, you know, without editorializing on that too much, I just think it's a difficult area to navigate, but I think that there is huge value in like the transparency and the trust that we gain by our moments of doing what's difficult and not popular. So for example, the people who ended up like following me more closely and who didn't tune out of my streams were people who ended up being like more like morally and intellectually aligned with me than was before I said this unpopular thing about Hedron.
Yeah.
And so whereas I lost like you know, like up to half of my viewership at the time, the half that I had was like a more concentrated group of people that were like positive, supportive, like on the same page, wanted to learn. They're at this stage in their development. And so that's also a positive that like wouldn't have necessarily been obvious to me if I wasn't thinking so critically about like what, you know, all the numbers go down. That seems bad. But then when I look at the result, it's in some ways better.
Yeah. Hey, at least you don't have the title of rudder of Hedron or Gunther.
People still make fun of me for saying that the OA would emergency end all their stakes if they claimed Hedron. So
yeah, I've actually, yeah, I know it's hard to like lose like half your audience too, and it was also hard for me. Like I actually kind of like took a break. Like people thought I was like hiding, like just afraid of people, but honestly, I was actually protecting myself for security reasons because I even got like threats and DMs. People even later threatened, like one guy threatened me in a DM. Fuck you if you're listening. Fuck you, whoever you are. He threatened me in a DM like if you don't give me 50,000 Pulse Doge, I'm gonna like dox your addresses to like everyone. And I laughed because I was like, I literally like other people doxed them for me. And I literally signed statements from my addresses. Or did I sign the statements? Or was it an ex-wife that signed the statements? Or was it a girlfriend? Or was it a son or daughter? Or was it stranger? Or did I take my seed words and put them in a glass bottle and throw them in the Atlantic?
that's my favorite one.
Right. So the point is, though, I just thought it was funny that they're like trying to use it as leverage. And like, fuck that. If you're going to fuck it, I'm going to say this right now. If you're going to fucking threaten me or anyone else, I'm going to use whatever is in my power to bring down the full extent of the law on your ass. And I will use my money to do so. I will hire an attorney and I will nail your ass. So if you're ready to go to court and face a judge, if you're ready for information to be released to the FBI or the CIA or the IRS or whoever I need to, like all I do is I fuck addresses. And also for those that want to discredit the work that I've done, also fuck you guys. So I noticed recently people were like, oh, we can't, oh, he's like some people discredit like my OA audit, like, oh, his chain analysis. Just because I don't release information doesn't mean I don't know it. I just choose not to release it. It's like WikiLeaks. Just because they have the information, yeah, it's fucking classified.
Yeah, it's classified top secret hexagon stuff, man. Like,
yeah, exactly. So we might release it, but we might not. If we feel like it'll cause more harm, we might not actually release it. But be careful if you go too far and you just double down and you want to lie to a whole community, prepare for an audit because this is a permissionless, transparent network, and I will audit that ass. I will spend 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, however long it takes. I will go through and I will find out everything and I will release it to the public. I have that right. I just don't like to be put into a corner and be discredited. But if someone will back off and not discredit my work, then I will also back off. Like it's a game of chess. Like I don't like people being lied to. I don't like wrongdoing. I like people to be honest and truthful. Have I been honest with the people here? I think everyone deserves that same respect. Be honest, be genuine, be truthful. If you're going to be slimy, prepare for war. Because my name is also Wolverine for a reason. So there's two sides to me. There's a love side, but if you anger me like the Hulk or the Wolverine, the character has no choice but to come out and go to war.
I've heard people talk about like, nobody cares about the narrative and like, stay away from that kind of stuff. And I disagree with that. Like, who is the first person to jump into the HEX trading chat whenever the price goes up or down a lot? Richard Hart is the one who's in there demanding answers from all the people who are like glued to the transparency. And that's a feature of blockchain. It's not a bug. And if you want to be anonymous, then don't tell people what your addresses are. And don't register .eth domains with your name on it. And don't like tell people that, you were, don't give any identifying information about your wallets. It's, and then how are people going to know,
Exactly.
Doesn't that solve itself?
And then if somebody corners you on something, just present the truth. Here's the thing about lying. Your body language betrays you. I grew up in a cult for 27 years. I was lied to my whole life. From the time I was born until I was the age of 27, I was brainwashed. everything that I knew was a lie. I had to actually, my brain had to be rewired over time. I'm 41 now, so like 14 years. And even still, there's things that I have to actually like consciously like step back from, be like, oh shit, that's probably tied back to like when I was younger. But I can pick up more readily when someone is full of shit, like when they're just lying. And then it just makes me want to go dig deeper, because like it just, I don't like being lied to. Now, are we all liars? Yes. Are we all? So there is also like a great deal of like hypocrisy though too, because we're all like flawed, imperfect human beings, and anyone could pick apart our lives and find something to critique and find fault with. So I also acknowledge that even I myself am a very flawed, imperfect person and do things that are wrong. And I actually appreciate when people give me that constructive criticism and that critique, because it makes me, I think, to be a better person and a better human being for this world.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, like, I'll go back to my observation that I think we have an insane amount of like people identifying themselves as like whales and sharks and dolphins. Like, if you just go back through all the old streams, like I could tell you who probably like 80% of the whales are, and probably 50% of the sharks, like just from public statements that people have made on streams that, you know, you can kind of tell based on how early somebody was, you know, to be a whale in HEX, like what you had to buy like $20,000 worth in the beginning, or 30, you know, like it was like what, like a few Bitcoin only. So, you know, it's not, I'm not saying that everybody just by giving their word that they're a certain like size is telling the truth, but also like, it's just fascinating to me because I don't see that much transparency or accountability in any other crypto, because they don't have communities that are already glued together as well as the HEX community is, and have so much volunteerism to get the word out. So,
yeah. I was reading the comments, like good comments. Yeah, it's funny. I will say this: if anyone is in Pulse Doge, can I just say, like, for any of you, if you do know addresses that own to me, I have made public statements on Twitter and also in the Pulse Doge chat and have pinned them. I will never market sell a single token from any addresses that I control or that I may or may not control. Let's just put it at that.
wow.
It will be very, and I could even flesh that out a little bit more. There won't be any market dumping or market selling. Not a single token. And you have live streams in Twitter and the chat so that you could use that against me in the future. So it should demonstrate like a show of good faith, I think, because I don't have to make statements like that. But I'm making that because I want people to have trust and faith and like confidence, like in the product, because I think there's a lot of potential there. I will say that if there's any value that's extracted in the future, and there will be, obviously no one just holds anything forever. Like we're not multi-billionaires like Richard Hart is. Right? we're just a bunch of plebs trying to make it in this world.
Yeah.
Can we extract some value?
I was gonna say I will sell it. I will sell at $5 and buy at $2.50. I promise that.
we already see that on the chart. But like, so the extraction of value, and I think a lot of the, even though I don't know who all of the whales are in Pulse Doge, I may or may not know some of them. I would just say that there is sort of like it appears as though some larger players are working in unison with the same mindset to possibly have Pulse Doge sort of act like the HEX OA, where it's like benevolent whales, where they want to, if they do extract value, it's more of you know, let's say the price goes up like 100x from let's say the all-time low. Well, maybe they capture like 1%. Maybe they extract 1% of their position via one-sided Uniswap V3, and it's just done in a very responsible way. Or if there's some type of over-the-counter trades that could be made where there's where there's like a common trust between the larger players, then that is also an option. It's harder with the trust factor because the only over counter the option that I know of is with HEX, with HSIs. I don't have an over the counter option with Pulse Doge.
Good
Now,
point.
another thing what's fascinating along these lines, it's so interesting. So like the founder recently stated today, and we've been hammering this in the chat, in the Pulse Doge chat, and also talking about it on Twitter. We've been trying to teach people like effective ways to extract value without murdering the price chart. Because like I learned my lesson, believe it or not. I know people think like we joke about it a lot, and there's like a bunch of funny memes that are posted, you know, like Gunther, like in these like walking around in these like funny like outfits, like funny music. But I have actually learned my lesson, right? So I guess one thing that's interesting is that we're encouraging people, hey, if you want to extract value with Pulse Doge and you sort of have like a price range that you want, go ahead and set your LP position now. Go ahead and, even though there will be front runners, it's actually a form of staking if you think about it. Because if you create an LP position, let's say you create a sell wall, like when the price does like a 50x or 100x, those coins are not liquid. They exist in an LP position. You're not earning any fees because the price is not trading in that. You're not earning any yield because you don't get that. Will it always be the case with Pulse Doge? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. But anyway, it is a form of staking. Now, anyone can obviously remove their LP position, right, and have liquid tokens. But it also kind of shows like the intent of that address, that maybe they, like somebody today, was interesting. Somebody did a 50,000 Pulse Doge LP position, Uniswap V3 today. And I did some research. I was like, oh, I wonder what price they set it at. So like you could go on their Etherscan. You could look up, did I mention this before on the stream? I can't remember. But anyway, if I did, I'm saying it again. You can look up the NFTs and look up the inventory and then view it on OpenSea, and you could see the price range, and it's set between $10 and $12. So basically, this person created a sell wall for their 50,000 Pulse Doge, which means they're trying to extract all their value at one time, which is not very intelligent, but hey, that's their choice. So basically, it's a $500,000 to $600,000 sell wall between $10 and $12.
Wow. And that's just sitting up there waiting way above the price, hoping that we wick up there, basically. You know, we'll have to get there in time. That could take months to build all the way to that level. Who knows, you know?
Yeah. Nobody knows. Who knows? And they could move their position or like maybe change it. You know, there's a lot that could happen. Guys could come and front run that position and start selling. But I just thought it was kind of cool to see that, like to see people like listening to like the advice and stuff. I'm looking at, what is Dylan saying?
I'll go back to that. Shout out to Rick in 305. Thanks for the $50 super chat. You rock. You said great stream. ... Hex fire, PLSD fire, and everybody else hit the like and subscribe button. I'm really trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. Personal goal here, so help me out. Dylan said in the chat, why don't you guys ask the Hex whale that made the bottom? He was trying to get out of Hex with 140 million Hex, posting LP at the market price constantly. Market was too weak. Dude capitulated and market sold. Interesting.
Okay. Not even a very, it's not like a profound statement. Let's, that
kind of helps explain, if that's true on the blockchain, that helps explain the psychology of the person selling.
I noticed Dylan is always trolling on these live streams. Always like, so I there's a history. he's one of my, salty haters, I think. That's all right. Who else? There was, I think, maybe Brazology was saying something. Let's see.
What did Brazology say?
I don't remember.
Oh, he's trying to get you to sell all of your PLSD and drive the price to the dirt and give the community 48 hours to buy a cheap PLSD.
I love you,
buy
Bruce.
back. That would show confidence. I don't think so. Here's what I would like to see in anybody who is a Pulse Dogecoin whale, I wish I could be a Pulse Dogecoin whale. I am not, but I'm really happy with all the airdrops that I got in all my different wallets. And I like the fact that it rewarded people differentially based on like not giving it all to the whales and helping people out. Like even crabs who, had one Tshare or something. Maybe that's a turtle now. Anyway, the point is like some people, like some wallets that I had created for family members, like got more value in PLSD than was originally put in HEX. And
Wow.
so that's a powerful thing to see. And part of the reason why I stated publicly, I planned and still do hold like over half of my airdrops from that. So, sold half and, stayed in with half. So, but what I would like to see somebody do is to get a Pulse Dogecoin tattoo. That would definitely instill confidence for me. I would probably buy more at that point.
Oh, I don't know about that one. That's a rough one.
So,
I'm even gonna get PulseX and PulseChain to finish out the Trinity on my chest,
yes.
but I don't know about the PLSD, bro.
Well, anybody who's like shilling it, like proof of tattoo. When
do you like
proof of
tattoos,
tattoo,
Gunther? You deserve a Pulse Doge tattoo.
I've never gotten a tattoo. Nothing. No tattoos.
Wow.
They're fun.
Nothing. Gotta work on these arms though. Yeah, no, I just haven't found one that interested me yet. But yeah, hey, I have another live stream. Back-to-back live streams. Totally. I'm going on with Corey at 10:30, and it's 10:29.
Awesome.
So
thank you so much for being on, for giving us 2 hours of your time. You've been out there like hitting so many streams and giving people lots of good knowledge. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm trying to. Some closing thoughts real quick. I really think my story could. I think my background and story could help a lot of people in this world. That's one of the reasons why I'm on Twitter a lot lately. I do want to have a larger audience. I would like to grow to like 1 million plus, only because I think I could actually change a lot of people's lives. So, because for me, I wanted to kind of just like stay secret and private and kind of go like Satoshi, like bounce out and just like whatever. But I think I could actually help a lot of people. So I want to make a lot of people wealthy. People don't really believe me. They're just like, there's the rugger of Hedron. I'm going to try to prove you guys wrong. I'm going to try to demonstrate that the rugger of Hedron could evolve and take you on a magic carpet ride. That's my goal. Will I succeed or fail? I don't really know. But I'm at least going to try. Like, for example, Pulse Doge could be a total flop. By the way, I didn't found the coin. I can't write code. I just bought it. That's it. I wanted to be a whale in Pulse Doge. Like Richard has said, anyone can become a whale in these like assets on PulseChain. This one's obviously on Ethereum, so it gets copied over. I was like, I want to become a whale in Pulse Doge. I like the setup. I like the environment. I guess let's put it this way. It's an experiment. It could totally fail. It could go to zero. It could just be a complete like flop. But I'm going to do my best to try to like make it work and hopefully a lot of people can become wealthy. Will that happen? I have no idea. Should you buy it? That's your choice. Maybe you just watch it on the sidelines, wait for that 100x and then maybe enter. I don't know. Will it do 100x? Who knows? Maybe it won't. Maybe we'll never do that. I don't know. This is just one giant scientific experiment for me. From my perspective, can we take a worthless meme token that's a copycat and have the copycat outperform the original by solving all the problems that exist with Doge? That's what I'm trying to do. I think Pulse Doge solved every issue that Doge has. So I want to basically, so like how HEX solved Bitcoin, like all the issues that Bitcoin had, I want to use the same tactic or marketing strategy so that Pulse Doge solves everything wrong with Doge. For example, the inflation in Doge is stupid. We already talked about that. $420 million needs to be injected every year just to paint the price sideways. Well, Pulse Doge is extremely scarce. The max supply is 12 million, but that's assuming everyone would claim based on all the claimable addresses that exist in the set that's tied back to the Merkle tree. We know that's not going to be the case. It's not going to happen. Maybe the supply is maybe somewhere between 5 million, 6 million, maybe 7 million. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then it's duplicated on PulseChain, and so then it doubles. So it has super scarce element. It appears to have some benevolent whales already that just buy and hoard the asset. So they act as monetary policy for the asset, and sort of like the HEX OA. So it has centralized ownership. It has a virality factor, like some of the best like meme creators, and just like constant live streams, constant tweets, just flooding the market, and just a desire to like really like push it. Like I was a sergeant in the United States Army. I know how to lead people. When I was in the cult, I was a Sunday school teacher to adults at the age of 15. I have the equivalent of a PhD in theology. Even though I never had a formal training, I could flex on any pastor in the world. Like I know the Bible better than like anyone you will meet, like backwards and forwards. And I haven't read the Bible in like 10 years. So, so yeah, there's that. So anyway, my point is, it's like I have an interesting background. It's unique. Like I was in the Army, like I was a helicopter mechanic, turbine jet engine mechanic. I was a wind turbine technician. I went to Ohio State University for like applied mathematics. Even though I didn't finish my degree, it was just like interesting to get into some of those like higher level math courses of like, not even that high, but just like calculus 1, 2, 3, a little bit of differential equations, linear algebra, C++ course, just the stuff like that, just to kind of like whet your appetite. So I think and I also like one of 15 kids. So I have a very interesting background. I'm a self-made. I grew up poor in a large family of 15, and I'm a self-made multimillionaire who started in crypto with $500 from a credit card in 2017. I think I have a story to present. And if I can attract a large audience, I feel like I could change their lives by showing them how to generate wealth by buying and holding assets like Pulse, PulseX, HEX, Pulse Doge, for example. I sort of want to sell like a package because I think the package is a smarter play than just one asset.
Well, like I mentioned before, like David
not
and
Mormon,
I,
not Jehovah's Witness, but yeah, go ahead.
David and I are doing our best to like help out this longevity foundation that inherited basically like 100,000 followers when Vitalik sent the Methuselah Foundation, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of these dog tokens, and now this is like a captive audience. And Methuselah is like willing to work with us, and so maybe you and I can talk behind the scenes about like how to best leverage that opportunity so that the Methuselah Foundation and that the original holders of this dog coin, that they get something valuable in terms of like, I'm not exactly sure how it would work out because I don't want to just like leech their audience. I want there to be like a bigger picture of how to help longevity, not just like grab their audience and bring it to HEX or bring it to Pulse Dogecoin. But if we can brainstorm about that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's an interesting name, the choice of Methuselah, because I think that dude allegedly lived like 969 years or something.
Oldest guy in the Bible. That's right.
That's why they chose the name, guys.
Yeah. So I find that kind of funny. By the way, I don't hold any like religious position at this point in time. I'm more just open-minded. I try to respect the faiths that everyone has. And I sort of understand why people go into religion. I'm just a little bit more like just way more open-minded. Before I was just like basically a narrow-minded, judgmental, just brainwashed like kid that like I didn't really like that version of myself. I felt like it was a fraud. But like this version of me is like the real, genuine me. The person that I think is like the best form of me and probably going to be like the best person for like the world.
Right on, man. Well, again, thanks for being on the stream, and shout out to you for all the awareness that you're bringing for the HEX bags and HEX airdrop bags.
I'm trying to pump everyone's bags. People don't see it yet. They don't realize. They think, oh, this guy's just off on some doggy coin. You guys got to pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm trying to pump everyone's bags and like the whole like package. Come on,
Right
guys.
on.
Pay attention.
Totally.
Hey, one last statement. Don't buy Pulse Doge.
There you go. But what you should do is follow Gunther. His social link is in the description below. So make sure to check that out and subscribe to him on his different media.
Yeah, thanks. You can find me on Twitter, Wolverine_2241. You can also find me in the Pulse Doge chat. I hang out there a lot. I left all the other chats that sort of was like a brain drain. I left Hex Trading. I left main chats. Basically just in Pulse Doge chat and a couple private chats that I won't disclose.
Right on.
All right. See you guys later. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Nice having you.
Yeah, go. You can join me in the other stream if you want. Corey, I'll try to post the link.
Corey Costa.
Yep. I'll see y'all.
Awesome.
I'll see y'all later. Have a good
All
day.
right, man. Have fun. Catch you later.
Thanks.
So David and I are going to stick around here for just a little bit longer. I think we have 352 people watching, thousands on the replay. Hit the like and subscribe button. Go and subscribe to David Feeder on his different channels that are in the description below. There are a couple of other topics that I wanted to get to that are worth discussing. I noticed like a low liquidity situation in Maxi, which I think is incredibly interesting to me. But first, I also wanted to talk about this meetup that's happening coming up here next week in Chicago that Big Kurkowski is putting on. I did a blog post about this, and I'll bring it up here so that everybody can see the details. I really like whenever we do these Hex meetups because it really gives people a chance, whether they're new or they've been around for a long time, to like see what it's all about, like the community that we've built. And so here is the description. You can find this by going to my Medium. I will copy the link and paste it into the chat now. What this basically says, for those of you who are just listening and not watching visually, this is a Hex meetup that I'm like getting the word out about. I'm not the person hosting it, but I'm just I made a page for it. It's the Chicago Cubs opening pitch Hex meetup on Wednesday, June 15th at 2 p.m. is when we're actually starting across the street from the baseball stadium. And it's hosted by Big Kurkowski. Shout out to him. It says here, all aspects of this meetup are graciously organized by Big Kurkowski. He will throw out the first pitch at the Chicago Cubs baseball game against the San Diego Padres. He'll be in full Hex gear. So that's exciting to get the word out about Hex. At 2 p.m. Central, there will be a pre-party meetup at 365-VIII. There's a $10 suggested donation for local nonprofit. So this is an event that Big Kurkowski is like organizing for the Hex crew. This is a live music venue across the street from the stadium on Clark Street. DJ Airwolf and MZG will perform. And there's the address for 365. The instructions for the baseball tickets are just come, grab a general admission ticket for a bleacher seat on StubHub or SeatGeek. I think these are only going for like 10 or 20 bucks. So it's really, low cost option for a Hex meetup if you are around. And I don't know the full name of everybody who's going to be there, but I know Art is going to be there, who I did a live stream with, who donated $2 million to an animal rescue. Big Kurkowski will be there. And I think a number of other major YouTube Hexicans will be there. I put a link to Hex merch, baseball jerseys, although I don't know if they'll arrive in time. Then we have like some cool pictures that I posted from the meetups we've been doing recently. Here's one from the Kankakee, Illinois meetup that we did a couple weeks ago. And then the Hex conference that we had 555 Hexicans show up to in Las Vegas. And then here's a picture of the Crypto Sparbuck tour where we were at a Chicago Bulls game. So shout out to everybody who's been going to these meetups. And I hope that if you know anybody in the Chicago area, you will suggest that they come.
Yeah, that's cool.
So what's been going on, David? How you been?
Doing good. Haven't been feeling so great the last couple of days, but just been relaxing. But in the world of crypto, no news, just chilling, watching the prices. I've been playing with Pulse Doge a little bit and buying the dips and selling the tips. But other than that, just relaxing, waiting for PulseChain news to launch. That's the big thing. So as soon as I hear word on when the refactoring of the code's been done, they're redoing everything just native Golang. So as soon as I'm hoping to see an update to the testnet soon with all those changes, and then I want to put that on the testnet server, and we're gonna start it up and see how it works. So I'm really just waiting for that.
And that could be anywhere from a couple days to a couple years. Is that correct?
I mean, it could be. Yeah. I mean, at worst case at this point, I mean, it could be sometime next year for like full mainnet launch. If it really is that bad, if they refactor all the code, we start a brand new testnet all over again. That'll, yeah.
I've said this before. That would be the worst case. The best case scenario would be that the chain launches, totally screws up, the price goes super low. Or wait, no. My ideal situation is out of the gate, it does a 20 to 50x, and then and then something goes wrong with the chain and it crashes down like 98%. Then I get to buy the bottom with all the coins I sold at the top. And then it's all good. I don't care what it's, of course it recovers after that to new all-time highs. And then it's just, then I stop paying attention at that point.
Yeah. As long as we don't pull Solana, like we don't want the chain stopping every week. That's like unacceptable. That's not cool. Now we're already in good shape because the testnet's already, it did freeze twice, but that was months ago. So you got to figure all the changes they're making now. If the nodes run, it's probably good. So, I'm not too concerned. It is what it is, we'll just have to wait and see.
Richard publicly said that one of the things that they were looking at as to why they would refactor the code, I think, was that there was some error that was identified that could have paused the chain, and this rewriting would fix that. So that's useful information. I also reread the tweet that he put out back when he said that it was going to be delayed. And it seems like the tense that he used was important. I believe he said that the code has been being rewritten. The tense that he used was like that it had already been worked on, putting it into Go, and that he was just announcing it at that point. So that to me, like, kind of suggests that this is to me, I really think it's like speculation here, but it's kind of an upgrade. It's kind of, we're getting upgrades, and that's going to benefit us because of the timing of the macro market and the timing of the crypto, bear bottom. That's where we want to be when this sort of thing launches. What are your thoughts about that? Am I confabulating, wishful thinking, cope, given a rationale to cope, or is that valid?
I think you're right on. The only thing I don't know is, I don't know if launching in the bottom of the bear is part of the plan, or if that's just a happy accident, to quote Bob Ross. I think they might just kind of go hand in hand. I don't know if those two are linked. I don't expect any sort of artificial delay. Richard's like, you know what, let's really wait for the bottom of the bear and then launch. I think PulseChain will just organically launch when it's ready and when it's time and when it's fully finished. So, with our luck, it'll probably just sync right up though. So, but do I think they're tied together? I don't know. Maybe.
It's written in the stars. That's what we have as our background here. That's why it's stars. Hex Token says, RH said, quote, has been mostly rewritten and partially implemented in native Go, end quote, 23rd of May. Thanks.
Sweet.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Once that's ready, those new Docker images that come in from the GitLab, that's what I want to see. I hope it does run faster too, by getting rid of Solidity and by running the actual code in just its own native Go language. I guess Richard says it'll run faster, more efficient. So that's great. But no new news on that so far.
Wally Saurus says, speculating here, it seems RH is only delaying because of the documentary. There's nothing that has to do with the code. It seems producers want to do a mini series as opposed to just one documentary. Can you like add some sources to that, because that's not what I've heard.
Pretty sure both of those things are untrue. It's like it's exact opposite.
Yeah, I mean, the documentary, there is something to that, I think, in the sense that the documentary, they're trying to time the market. They're trying to time the content that they're gathering. They're still putting together their materials, but they're also doing screenings. You know, we saw Richard post that they were doing a private screening for him. So, but I mean, I would love if that was true, if they did a miniseries rock. You know, I just got done watching twice over this documentary on Apple Plus TV about We Crashed. It's about the WeWork bubble that was created. And that was fascinating. It was really, really good acting by Anne Hathaway and Jared Leto. It's like really good stuff. So, you know, check that out if you're trying to pass time in the bear market and, you know, need a distraction so you don't emergency end stake all your HEX or whatever. Until the actual documentary comes out. But I think the documentary crew stated that they're waiting for PulseChain to launch, and Richard is not basing his decisions based on the documentary.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. Well, they've been teasing it. They're like joking though. Like, because I've even replied to their tweets about it. They're like, "Hey, would you guys like to see a miniseries?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, bro!" They're like, too bad. It's like, oh, come on, man. But that would be sweet if it was 10 one-hour episodes of the highest of stakes miniseries. That would be fucking epic. That'd be so cool. Oh man, who knows?
There is a lot of history being created by HEX and PulseChain and PulseX, by the OA behavior, by DeFi coming of age and having a leap forward now. It's incredible. And I wish that, you know, I wish that the documentary crew, like maybe like had as much of a background experience as David and I do in witnessing all of this, because I'm not sure how much they're focusing on certain events but that's okay. Cause like there's different stories to tell, and there's everybody has their own medium and everything. For example, you know, what are some major points of history? You know, I mean, I think that, you know, we saw the biggest stake, 15-year stake ever created when the God Whale, wasn't it, that did that big stake? It was like, 100, it was some insane amount of money. And like that amount of money had never in the history of the world been staked for that long. And it's just like, it got no coverage.
Crazy, huh?
So I think we'll finally get the clout that we deserve one of these days. David, what are your thoughts on some of this outrage marketing starting to take on Twitter? Have you noticed that?
What do you mean, from Richard specifically? Like outrage marketing? Yeah, sure.
Like,
I mean, I got some Red Bull cans on my Twitter profile picture. I think it's funny.
He's in the past 2-3 days, some of the outfits that he's posted have gotten like people with hundreds of thousands of subscribers are all like tweeting, commenting, and
even if they're making fun.
They're making fun of him and they're advertising for him for free.
Yep, pretty much. We'll take it. Why not? It works. Well, that works. That's eyeballs, man. That's all that matters. Yep. Mind space. You want people to, even if they just hear his name now And then when they hear Richard Hart a year later and they're like, oh, Richard Hart. Oh, yeah. That guy that I saw on Twitter last year. What's he doing? PulseChain. Oh, all right. I guess I'll check it out. Boom. Like that's all it takes is just plant the seed, and then maybe you'll get a plant later that grows.
This Bitcoin OG that went on Crypto Coffee's stream today, it's like describes himself as a degen trader. So like don't want to overhype him at all. But like I found something to be particularly interesting when he was asked like how did he hear about HEX? How did he get into it? Because he's been apparently like scraping up a ton of value from like providing liquidity and in really advanced ways that he described on the stream. But anyway, he said he got a postcard in the mail, totally disregarded it, then kind of heard about Richard in other ways, saw Richard's like facade and his kind of described like seeing Richard without the sound on. It's like, yeah, this dude's definitely a scammer. Like anybody who sends postcards in the mail, like has a marketing budget like that is a total scammer. Saw Richard, thought total scammer, then listened to Richard. And he said he had cognitive dissonance because it was the most intelligent crypto conversation he had ever heard. So that is the exact path that apparently that we need to do in order to onboard these high net worth individuals and smaller people too. Anybody who's bored on Twitter knows about HEX in a negative way. And now they're going to have an opportunity to learn about it in positive ways too, as the swarm of HEX super hornets that Bitcoin and Sailor could never become, like continues to up our game and like, stop being so negative about everything. A bear market is a perfect time to, the other thing I found interesting is like tons of HEX streamers and people who have giant HEX bags. Like I've heard people say, and I just started picking up on like, oh yeah, tons of people have said this, that they almost quit crypto and then they found Richard Hart. I think Gunther said that in an interview I heard earlier today. I know RG has said that, like he said that in his testimonial video. And I know that there's tons of other people who have said like they got wrecked by everything in crypto. They were ready to give up on crypto. Then they heard Richard, right? And that's incredible because we're now in a bear market where people are going to have another opportunity, who didn't hear the first time about Richard, they can hear about him now and come win with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is everybody's second chance who missed it, or anybody who bought higher. Yeah. Now is the time to DCA in and enjoy the lows, enjoy the bear, build your bag and get ready for the PulseChain fork. This is this is the time. This is another opportunity versus imagine if HEX back in September, it was at 50 cents. What if it just went to $1? What if it was at $1 today? Well, then, all the people who, it depends how you look at it, I guess. I don't know. Somebody has to buy at the top, right? But, hopefully we'll get out of this bear before too long. Might take a little bit of time, but I'm personally, one of the reasons I'm not worrying, I'm confident HEX, like even Gunther said earlier, there's going to be resistance on the way up. Once you punch through the old all-time high, HEX will make a new all-time high. We're only on day, 900 and something of HEX. So it's like, not even been 3 years. So it's plenty of legs left to go and plenty of room to grow from here. So it's just all about how long can you hold on.
Dude, I still can't believe it. 75% of user-controlled HEX is locked.
That's so bullish. That's awesome. Like that, and that shows everybody's smart too. 3 out of every 4 HEX that a user has is staked. That's good. That's real good. I like to hear that.
That's insane. It's just so like I can't. It boggles my mind. And we're up 1,000x from the all-time low. So how many, all the people who already sold, you know, it's incredible. And it doesn't mean that HEX is going to go straight up from here, because all those people who are time locked, like, so I think some of the resistance that we're running into right now is due to the marketing of HEX in the beginning. What time frame did Richard say?
Like 2 years.
Well, he said
X in like less than 2 years. Was that the goal?
No, it was two and a half.
Okay.
And then what actually happened was 2 years, but he was basing it off of the Ethereum pump that went from 14 cents to $1,400. That was a 10,000x in 2.5 years. And so he said over and over and over again, when HEX was launching and in the first year of the product, that HEX was designed to do a 10,000x in 2.5 years. So everybody who heard that and staked a little bit before or right at the 2.5 year mark, they have crypto coming out now. And so that's kind of a hurdle that we're having to jump over, in my opinion, is like, because I know that's what everybody was thinking. It's like, all right, I'm going to stake some for 2.5 years, then I'll stake some for longer, shorter, that kind of thing. So that was a starting point for a lot of people. What that means, though, is that it's also really good timing that we're going into, you know, or we're already in this recession, this pullback, because the people who are selling HEX now are selling into like a negative macro environment. And that means that they're getting less, they're giving away their HEX for cheaper than if they waited. And it's the whole point of HEX is to wait and to dollar cost average out if you've created a staking ladder. And, you know, it's like, not delude yourself that you really could have sold the all-time top or bought the all-time low. Like, that's important to remember. So, oh, somebody said move on to the maxi stuff. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, I saw a post on Twitter that like bothered me, saying that there's going to be more maxi contracts created now. And, you know, then
Really?
they were beating up on Sticker Guy for being against that. And like, dude, Sticker Guy has never seen his investment go in the positive. He bought the top. His entire time in HEX has been like 7 months of down. I mean, like, the dude literally like traveled to America to help pump your bags. Like, you're gonna try to tear him down and shit, because like, you know, it's that got me like upset about maxi. And I had bought like, I don't know, I bought like $500 worth just to like see how it works after we had done the stream with the maxi founder, which that was a great stream. And like I've said, I've like evolved my thinking on tradable stakes to the point where like I still think they're bad, but I don't think that they're fatal. I don't think that it's like the worst thing that ever happened. I've, you know, updated my worldview on that. But, you know, then I started to, you know, it's like the further you go down the rabbit hole of all this stuff, it's like you can totally change your opinion on things when one variable changes, because these are such complex systems. So I started like asking myself, when I realized that the liquidity and it could just be like the sources I was going to, but like the price that I was seeing in my price tracker for maxi was like twice the HEX price. It was like HEX was like 5 cents and some change. Like maxi was like 10 cents and some change. This was like last night. And so, so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Then I was like, well, you know, like I'm like pissed off that they were beating up on Sticker Guy. And like, I had put out a tweet saying like, well, isn't the point of maxi to like be able to exit? Like, you know, isn't that the use case for it? Like that you don't have to hold for the whole time. And like, it's kind of like the advantages of liquid and being staked at the same time. So I was like, all right, like, yeah, you know, I'm going to sell my maxi. So, you know, I'm talking like my $500 turned into like $200. So like at this point, it's not like, you know, it's not hurting anybody. It's not like, you know, it's kind of like making a point, like helping me understand it. That was the point of me getting that. And so like, you know, I have real 15-year stakes that I can't get out of, which like I'm proud of. So anyway, so I go to sell. It's like $200 in maxi, and the slippage is like getting me down to like 7 cents when the price is shown as 10. And I was like, that's when I realized, like, damn, that's actually a good thing. Like, you mean that all these people with tradable stakes, like maybe they don't have so much exit liquidity as they think. Like, that's a good thing in my opinion. So I totally reversed my opinion on it just by like getting new information in. Like, how beautiful would that be if like there was you know, if it's a trap to like keep you staked longer? Because like, dude, if the slippage had like taken me negative, I would have just held it like for 15 years. Like, who cares?
Yeah, right.
You know. So, what are your thoughts on all that? Like,
well, I have a question first though. Were you going against US dollar coins, or were you swapping to HEX versus your maxi?
I tried all the different ones. So I tried ETH, I tried USDC, and I tried I can't remember if I tried HEX or not, but I think that it was just the USDC that like was giving me any possibility of like getting out. Because like Matcha like wouldn't even do the trade with ETH, I think.
Yeah, I think the biggest pool for maxi is versus HEX,
which surprises me as to why it didn't route through that, or like why.
Correct. Yeah, it should have.
Why the slippage was so bad.
Yeah, because that's where most liquidity is here. I'm looking at it. There's like $250,000, but you have to be using HEX though. It's HEX versus maxi.
Huh. Okay, so maybe I was just like using it wrong, and like
it's probably the US dollar coin, which had much less liquidity.
Okay. All right. Well, that explains.
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it was interesting from like a thought experiment perspective, just to like update my worldview and be like, oh, that's a possibility in the market, that those liquidity providers, if they pulled their liquidity, they could just like, you know, cause maxi holders to like hold for longer.
Yeah, they'll be trapped. Yeah.
Not that I'm saying that they should do that or that they shouldn't do that. I'm just like, I'm understanding what tradable stakes mean more and more. What it means is, instead of being locked in to yourself, you're being locked in to the liquidity providers. Like, that's what it means. You know, don't blame the messenger, right? And it, you know, I'm happy to hear that it turns out there's plenty of liquidity for people to sell $200 worth in if they choose the right coin. So
yeah, I played my maxi too early. Like I enjoyed maxi because it let me get more HEX for free. You know, I put in a bunch of HEX. I minted my maxi in the beginning. I waited for the premium to go what I thought was sky high, and then I sold all the maxi and swapped it back to HEX. I got a shit ton of HEX for free. So like maxi was great. I hope they do it again. Do it again. I'll do it again. Why not? I'll take more HEX for free. You kidding me? Why not? Easy. It's what's not to love? You know, it kills me. I missed the double. I mean, maxi went to 2 times the premium of HEX. So I put in a HEX and I minted a maxi. I could have sold it for double back later, but I couldn't even hold that high. I didn't even make it up to 2x. So, but I'm all for them doing it again. Do it again. Like easy money.
People aren't going to like me saying this, but again, like, you know, like there's a risk that you're taking when you start using HEX in a way that like it's not designed for. It's like, it seems like an easy double now, but you know, I think, you know, it's something where HEX wasn't broken and now people are using it in a very different way. So that you know, could have unintended consequences. But people are going to do what they're going to do. And I love that we can all come on here, like being academic minded adults who are like respecting each other's opinions, differences. Like this is how we grow and learn, by having different opinions. You know, people don't like me fudding all of your free money. Like, you know, remember the other side of the trade, that somebody bought Maxi and then, you know, at such a premium, and now they're not able to get HEX. And, you know, if the liquidity were to not be so abundant, then they would lose again. So in this sense, it's like, you know, who are the winners and losers is a good question to ask, in my opinion.
Yeah, it depends how you played it. Totally. Yeah, it just depends on what moves you made.
Yeah.
Me personally, I love doing easy moves. You know, like what you did with Pulse Doge, sell half and keep half. That's a win-win. That's great. You got a couple $1,000 and you got a couple, probably 100 Pulse Doge coins left over for a rainy day, or the far-flung future when they're worth God knows what. Like, that's cool. That's what this is all about. You know, like Maxi, it's like, sure, it's a giant pooled stake. It worked. It's worth more than Hex's 1 for 1. It did its job. Congratulations, like, bravo. You know, it blew my expectations out of the water. So it's just, you know, they're neat little experiments. If you play them right, you can make a lot of money.
And if the experiment goes horribly wrong, then I'm not going to, you know, take much joy in saying I told you so.
Yeah, and that happens in science and experiments too. Sometimes they go horribly, horribly wrong, and that's okay. That's how we learn.
Yeah, I've also heard the perspective that the premium would continue to increase. I obviously am not playing that game, but here Mountain Coiner is, you know, explaining this. So Mountain Coiner here in the comments said, this is a good opportunity to load up on some Maxi as well. The premium will only increase. Buying Maxi now with USD would be roughly equivalent to minting it during the mint phase. I think that, you know, like, I am not spitting as some low liquidity FUD that HEX was attacked for. If I couldn't sell $200 worth of Maxi and ate 25% slippage, dude, that is a problem. And I brought it here, you know, to David in full faith that we would have a productive conversation out of it. And it looks like we did, because I educated myself and probably lots of other people, and I hopefully saved people a lot of fucking money, because now they're going to know not to sell Maxi for USDC and to not sell it for ETH. So you're welcome for helping everybody in the space. And, you know, you wouldn't set a limit order for $200 sell, man. You know, maybe
it won't fill.
Maybe you need to like do some more math there. And I'm happy to, you know, help people who are a little bit lost. Like, the reason why I wouldn't set a limit order in that situation, but maybe in another situation I would, because the limit order has to be profitable for the bot to fill it. And so it's not like you're getting free gas. It's that like the gas is being like arbitraged out at a profit. And so somebody asked earlier in the stream when we were talking about limit orders, why their limit order never fills on Matcha. Like, the reason for that is, it could be two different things. It could be like Steph was saying the other day, that you have more than one limit order set and they're not going to fill in that situation. Only one will fill. So the one that's closest to being in the money. And the other possibility is that that it's not profitable for a bot to pay your gas fee and to arbitrage the sell or the buy.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. It's just because it's usually if you're trying to do under $1,000, yeah, it's not profitable for the bot and they won't pick up your order. You even see that on metric.exchange. Like, if you look at like Pulse Doge, for an example, there's orders of like, oh, I want to buy 5 Pulse Doge for $10. It's like the bot is never going to fill that order. It's too small. Sadly, the website doesn't say that though. I wish Matcha had like instructions on that, or like a rule of thumb, or it just even said like a hint. Please try to add more, you know, but it doesn't tell you that anywhere. So kind of sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. They should do a better job of like explaining that on where the actual interface
Yeah,
is.
like that. Yeah, I've even read the FAQ. Like it doesn't mention that anywhere that you should try to be profitable and tips and tricks. There's nothing.
Weird.
It's just you just got to learn it yourself. It's crazy.
So
Right,
yeah, I mean, that's useful stuff. Yeah, we can wrap it up. Thanks everybody for being here. Hit the like and subscribe button if you've found this content to be useful. Trying to get to 10,000 subs here, and I would love to see David also having greater than 10,000 subs. So go in the description below, click on all of his links, and subscribe there as well. Also, if you're watching this on the replay or right after we end the stream, you'll be able to enter a comment that'll stay up on the YouTube page. And what I'm interested to hear is who do you want to see on the show? So that'll be the question for this week. Can't guarantee that we'll have that person, but go ahead and let me know. I mean, especially if you have a connection. I mean, if it's somebody in the HEX community, I can likely get them to come on the show. Thankfully, because we're all here to pump each other's bags. But if there's even somebody that you know of that is outside of the HEX community who would be able to attract a bigger audience or have a discussion that we haven't had before, I would love to hear about that. So leave that in the permanent comments there after the live stream. Been another great show. So thanks, David, for being here. And,
thanks for having me. Pleasure as always. It's always fun.
Awesome. I'm going to load. Oops, I need to load the background so we can see. People can see on Twitter. That's one thing that I think I want to make sure that other streamers know about. You can, especially if you're using StreamYard, you can effortlessly add your stream to Twitter. And we've seen that sometimes the number of viewers on Twitter, sometimes it's been 10% of the total viewership we have on YouTube, but every once in a while it could surpass, like there have been times where something just really got a lot of traction on Twitter. So I've got the account like automatically linked up. I might make a video for it at some point to show people how easy it is, but that's it's a way that you can increase your reach really without doing any extra work. It's all automated. It automatically tweets out the live stream link and it posts the video on Twitter as well. And so there have been times when YouTube took down my video and then they put it back up later because they were like, our bad, but it created a backup of the video as well because it's hosted by Twitter too. So it's not just a link that goes through to YouTube. It's like an actual, it's using Periscope, except Periscope like just turned into regular Twitter. So
those like embedded videos that like auto play right in the tweet, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I don't even know how to do that. So if you made a tutorial on how to do that, that'd be sweet.
Awesome. Cool, man. Yeah.
That'd be very useful.
Well, as a community, we can all grow and learn from each other and grow our community. So thanks everybody for being here, and we'll see you again next Tuesday.
Oh yeah. See you next time, Mexicans.
Peace.